Welcome to the Red Leaf Wrestlecast. I am here, and after 4 months of sitting and receiving all your emails, countless Twitter direct messages, and among other things, the people have spoken and want a wrestling cast, hence the Red Leaf Wrestlecast. This Wrestlecast shall cover much of the world in wrestling. It won't be just WWE and what they're doing, and to prevent that from being just a bitch cast, essentially, with the state of what that company's doing. This will also cover New Japan, Ring of Honor, and various indie promotions that myself partakes in, and other people. Hopefully, my guest. This won't be just a one-and-done thing. I'm joined here with RadZero, a friend of mine that I've met through various other internet joinings, such as the PNG podcast. We've met a couple times there. And to start in this first episode, we shall cover more or less a 2018 recap before the big events happened through such as Wrestlemania, the Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor, and the New Japan Genesis pay-per-view. They all seem to coagulate, you might say, around the same weekend. Even Impact Wrestling and Lucha Underground is doing a conglomeration that same week. So we're doing a recap, and to kind of intro ourselves and our views on wrestling and going forward along the year. So I'm joined here with RadZero, as I said before. Let's get a little background of who you are, what you're about, and I put some questions in the agenda that I would love to hear from you. Rad, take it away.
Awesome, JD. I just want to thank you very much for inviting me on the first ever WrestleCast on your channel. I really appreciate it, and I'm ready to go talk some wrestling with you. I already got two Jack and Colas and whatnot, so here we are.
Excellent. You can't watch wrestling without drinking, it seems.
Oh, yeah, no, not at all. So, especially WWE, it makes it more fun that way. So yeah, my name is RadZero. You can find me on YouTube, RadZero. I'm also on Twitter, RadZero83. And I'm a huge wrestling fan. I pretty much grew up on the product from WWE to WCW, WWE back when it was WWF. I am also a retro gamer, so if you're interested in any of the two topics between pro wrestling and gaming, I highly recommend to check out my channel. I should be making my return to YouTube. I haven't uploaded a video in maybe about a month, so I'm definitely ready to get back into the swing of things, so to speak, and talk more wrestling and discuss retro gaming with you guys. So I guess here we are on this first ever WrestleCast. JD, again, thank you for having me. And as far as the promotions that I watched growing up, as I just touched base on before, that was WWE and WCW. I probably started maybe around the time. I mean, I was already aware of wrestling from the 80s. What really, I guess, attracted my attention to it was maybe those old Hasbro figures. I remember walking into KB toy stores looking for Ninja Turtles, and I remember seeing the figures, the coloring books, instantly drawn to Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. And one match in particular that I just really saw and it just came alive to me as maybe a comic book come to life was the Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan, WrestleMania 6 over in Toronto. Historic match, and that just sucked me right in. And I want to say I started watching wrestling religiously when the Monday Night War started, especially when Scott Hall fired, I guess, the first shot when the whole formation of the NWO was going on. It was just must-see TV, and that really drew me in, and ever since then, I've just been a huge fan. I can't imagine life without wrestling, so definitely grew up on both WWF and WCW. Now, I guess this begs the question on which one I preferred, and I would have to say WCW. I was just a huge mark for it. I would watch both, but World Championship Wrestling was where it's at, and Sting, my all-time favorite superstar.
Yeah, and I'm curious to what two others of your favorites were growing up.
Definitely Hulk Hogan. The Ultimate Warrior is what drew my attention as a kid to get into wrestling, so I would say those three.
I'm curious, what part of the country did you grow up in since you liked WCW so much?
Oh, I actually grew up in South Texas. You would think that I'd be more,
there you go.
that I'd be more WWF though, being that Shawn Michaels is from San Antonio, and he is another one of my favorite superstars of all time. But just WCW just seemed more realistic to me. They had more realistic storylines, and it came off as more of a competition versus a show. Not to knock the product at the time, I still loved it, but WCW just seemed more real to me.
Yeah, especially with the kind of formation with the more or less the NWA and Ric Flair kind of molded it together into that realism.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, that begs the question then: what am I doing here? Why a WrestleCast besides what the Red Leaf Retrocast started out as just over a year ago now? I've been doing this podcast where just started out playing retro games, pick a theme, and we play a bunch of games. In fact, the next recording for the next one's going to be with Hibiki.
Oh, nice. Yeah, a good friend of mine.
The guest. Yep.
Right.
He's picked the theme, and he's got his own wrestling podcast, the Slam Pigs, among others, and
Sure.
some. So go check him out. I implore you guys. It's on YouTube. No problem. Easy to access. Very fun. Mostly just WWE covered, so that's why you're here, because we're not just going to cover WWE.
Everything else outside of the bubble.
That's right. Well, the reason why I've been getting hounded with a lot of emails and requests for a wrestling cast is the Red Leaf Retrocast hasn't been scared to just stick with what it started out as. We do anime now, retro anime. We do modern gaming. And now wrestling. But where do I stand in wrestling? Well, I've been a fan of wrestling longer than I've been playing video games. This was you could say the first geek out thing I fell in love with. It's probably among my first memories. I grew up in just outside Houston, Texas, hence the love that I had for the NWA and WCW and whatnot.
Sure.
I couldn't tell you any particular matches I quite remember that young. I just remember being there and looking back at old family photos and whatnot, and damn do I remember Ric Flair. It was my dad's favorite wrestler, but I was always drawn to at least the matches he would have. Just these guys going at each other for what appeared to a young child, and especially in the early 90s, actual competition. You really bought into it.
Right.
Well, what promotions did I watch other than WCW? Well, I mean, it was WWF at first. WCW were the events. It was local television, but WWF at first had the wrestlers I loved. Like you said, Rad, with Ultimate Warrior, he was the draw.
Oh, yeah.
Hulk Hogan was the face.
Right.
But what ended up getting me was actually kind of the workers, because of that whole Ric Flair persona and everything. It was always the Macho Man and Bret Hart and even the other mid-carders like Mr. Perfect. Those were the guys that I loved seeing. And then as it went on, you had The Undertaker come and just infatuated with maybe just branching out from that realism that I had seen the whole time. But then as soon as the mid-90s rolled around, or even the early to mid-90s, when a lot of those guys started jumping ship to WCW, as did I. And that's where the WCW I pretty much stopped watching WWF at that time. I would only tune in to watch The Undertaker, essentially, and Bret Hart until he jumped ship.
Right.
So, my three favorite were Bret Hart, Sting, and The Undertaker, if that's no indication.
Oh, yeah. Especially, I know that you have a story about actually being one of those kids in the crowd getting Bret Hart's sunglasses.
Oh, yeah, I still have them to this day. That was, I want to say it was a Superstars event, but I don't think it was. I think it was more closer to a Saturday Night event.
Okay.
Or even just a house show at the time.
Yeah.
But I was one of those kids. I was 4 years old, and I remember my mom dragging me to the front row along the guardrail, and Bret Hart just signed him, Houston, Texas, and put the glasses on me, and then the very next match, Owen Hart came out.
Oh, nice.
And gave me his glasses, but he was never one to sign them or anything. He would just do what his brother did.
So you actually have both sunglasses then?
I did. I got both of them in the same night. That was
man.
my...
Were you sitting like a corner or something, right there by ringside, or?
No, I was middle.
Okay.
Ring. I remember that clearly. The match I do remember the most was Ric Flair beating Doink the Clown.
That's awesome. I bet that was interesting.
That's why I think it was like a house
show.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's not something you'll watch on TV. Well, that's cool, man. I mean, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you, GD?
I just turned 30 last month.
So we're more or less the same age. I'm a little older. I just turned 34, so. But yeah, I'm just noticing that the wrestlers that you're talking about are like the exact ones I grew up with. So I guess it's safe to say that we're from the same generation. It just sounds like you got into the realistic part of professional wrestling a lot before, or way before I did.
Well, I mean, that's just what I was exposed to first
Right.
and foremost. That's why when WWF started, I guess, being more prominent
Uh-huh.
in the South, I can only speak from experience on that. I don't look at logistics for those things. It's just different characters. You know, you have such an imagination as a kid. All those gimmicks and characters just really
Oh
stand
yeah,
out to you.
absolutely. And that was part of the reason what really drew me to the old Hasbro figures. I remember seeing the toy store is that it's like they literally had like every single one, and every single superstar at the time just had their own unique character. So that was really cool about wrestling back then. It seems that kind of lacks in today's world of professional wrestling, which is why sometimes I prefer to watch everything else outside because it seems to me that there's just better characters, for example, at New Japan Pro Wrestling, as you know. So it's just amazing what's outside this Vince McMahon bubble.
Oh, and we'll definitely get into that.
Awesome.
So the goal here of this wrestling cast is to what I've done, Rad, is I've broken down what we're talking about and what the cast will talk about into three tiers. So I have tier one listed as the WWE products: your Raw, your SmackDown, your WWE pay per views, your 205 Live, and of course NXT,
Uh-huh.
the more or less for wrestling fans promotion or the training ground for the main shows. Then I have tier two listed as the New Japan and Ring of Honor. Very good promotions, a little bit bigger, but not quite WWE's, I don't want to say wrestling level, but for the pure draw power.
Right.
And then tier three is basically anything else, such as your TNA/Impact, your Westside Extreme Wrestling, which we'll get into, Progress, which we'll get into, and others.
Okay.
It seems British wrestling has just exploded over the last couple of years.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've noticed that.
Well, besides that, I've also I've watched a few like Cultaholic and wrestling YouTube guys and companies, and a lot of them have been doing, even some podcasts have been doing this Wrestler of the Week ranking, and I'm very fascinated by this because then you get to see more or less their opinions over who's better and who's performing more, and it's not just WWE centric. So I thought that would be something fun to do with this podcast, is have not a weekly ranking, because honestly I don't have the time to do a wrestling cast weekly, but more or less a monthly ranking at the very least.
Sure.
So starting now, upon recording, I'm taking the top 10 wrestlers from WWE in tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. So there's 30 wrestlers, and they'll kind of all amass a point system, you might say. You know, if you're ranked 10 that month, you'll get 1 point, all the way up to, if you're ranked 1, you'll get 10 points. So we'll see where we stand after April hits with all these big pay-per-views happening. So I thought that would be a fun little thing to do.
Okay.
Requires an Excel spreadsheet and whatnot, but that's okay. It's just putting numbers on a text computer thing.
Yeah.
So let's get started with the indie recap. What do you say, Rad?
Sure. Take it away.
Well, I figure we start, since I mentioned British wrestling's exploding. There's a lot of wrestling promotions in Britain, among things like Progress, IPW, Defiant, Revolution. I mean, there's a bunch. I personally, I used to watch Defiant when it's WCPW, when you can catch everything pretty much free on YouTube, but now you gotta kind of pay for it.
Right.
So now I've just been focused on Progress, and the reason why I focus on that is they do a lot of cross promotions with a lot of the other ones. So if you watch simply Progress Wrestling, you kind of get a feel for what's going on in all of British wrestling. And they did just announce they're going to do a cross promotion with WXW, the German promotion, which we'll get into later, in May. And this weekend.
Amazing.
They're having WXW is going to Britain this weekend, and in May, it's gonna be the other way around. So that's gonna be really cool.
Was that the? I know that you shared the tweet with me where, I guess Tony Storm was going to be facing against Dashwood.
Yes, that was big news coming out of WXW on their just after their big pay-per-view, which we'll get into in a little bit.
Sure.
They did announce Tony Storm will be facing Tenille Dashwood, aka Emma from WWE. That's what she used to go by.
Right.
So that's going to be a good match. It certainly should be anyways. Well, Rad, how familiar you are with British wrestling or any of these promotions, or even some of the wrestlers?
I'm familiar with the names. I haven't really followed British wrestling per se as of late. However, I did used to watch Defiant back when it was What Culture, and that's how I was exposed to a lot of the women's wrestlers. From that time, I know I saw a lot of matches with Bea Priestley. I know she's not from the UK. I believe she's from Australia or New Zealand.
I believe so.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, I am definitely familiar with the names. Like I said, I just haven't really watched any of their promotions recently. So I'm really depending on what you have in store for us, and I'm definitely looking forward to any results or anything new.
All right. So some notable matches and wrestlers we're going to go through for a lot of these indie promotions, just kind of familiarize the audience with who these people are and what to expect. Of course, since they're indie promotions, they're extremely small venues. I mean, some of them have a ring and they wrestle in front of maybe 300 people to 1,000 maximum for big pay-per-views.
Okay.
And they may not even have mats down. It's just a bunch of chairs surrounding ringside on hardwood floors, almost like fighting in a basketball gym.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. So, with Progress Wrestling, I like this one the most out of all of them. Because you got wrestlers like Travis Banks, who's the current champion. You got Jimmy Havoc, Matt Riddle, aka the King of Bros.
Matt Riddle? Yeah, he's good.
Well,
or
I got an opinion on him, but
okay.
Nonetheless, he's over as fuck, which means he's very popular with the fans.
Right.
And Progress has a lot of alumni that you may have seen in WWE, such as Tyler Bate, Pete Dunne, and Mark Andrews.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And they still wrestle there quite a bit because they're not completely full-time WWE guys quite yet, but they do show up on, say, NXT, maybe an episode of Raw, even 205 Live appearances. And they generally blow the house down with matches. Well, Progress tends to have what they call chapters every once in a while. Chapter 64 just happened, where it featured what they called the Thunder Bastard match. And I had no idea what that even was, but they do feature... It's basically a 6-man gauntlet match, but elimination style, where 2 guys will start, and then every 2 minutes, another guy will come out. So think of Royal Rumble with elimination rules by pinfall or submission.
Okay.
What do you think of that?
Well, I just, I mean, it's not something, like I said, that I've been following. This is all new to me from what you're discussing right now on the podcast. I'm definitely looking forward to what you think about it.
Well, the matches themselves were very basic, you might say. There was a tag team match for their tag titles, and they had a cool little thing where one of the partners of the champions got injured and had to go to the back. So the heels kind of talk shit to him. It's like, hey, if you're the champs, you can fight us by yourself. You don't need your partner. You're scared of us. And Mark Haskins was one of those. It was the champions were Mark Haskins and Jimmy Havoc. And I mentioned Jimmy Havoc because he's kind of got this British punk rock thing going on.
Sure.
So he's very over. And what ends up happening is basically a 2-on-1 handicap match the whole time until Havoc makes this rally return. But what ends up happening is he tags himself in, and the injury was just too much to overcome, and they actually lost. It wasn't just this kind of John Cena, Superman type moment where the injury doesn't matter in the end.
Oh man!
So even small indie promotions can kind of surprise you with the right booking decisions, which leads me into their main event, the Thunder Bastard match, where this elimination style just really gets you involved in all the people. You can tell stories during the match, such as there's this local guy called TK Cooper. He's kind of this sly heel guy, where while the ref was paying attention to one wrestler who's been battling injury and has a rivalry with another guy, there's a moment where TK Cooper proceeds to kick British Strong Style, which is Tyler Bate, Pete Dunne, and Trent Seven. He proceeds to kick Bate and Seven in the nuts, and then as the referee's turning around, Pete Dunne kicks him in the nuts and gets DQ'd.
Yeah.
And even though TK Cooper's hurting, he's holding his nuts and he's in the ropes, he's got a big smile on his face and he's like, "Get out of there!"
Instant karma.
It was great. That's what it's those kind of decisions and booking and characters, as you said, right?
Yeah, it sounds like
which is why Progress is so fun.
I guess our goal is to make it fun for the audience, and sometimes that's important.
Yeah, and being that a lot of these indie promotions don't have really the time or weekly show to cut promos or make rivalries. They kind of got to do it during the matches, or just a short segment before or after via video or what have you. So that's what draws me to Progress. Travis Banks is the current champion. You'll see him throughout Europe right now. He is just this very good New Zealand wrestler. He's nicknamed the Kiwi Buzzsaw. He's just a hard-hitting dude, and he's not even the biggest guy, but he gets the job done. And he had a title match at Chapter 64 with Matt Riddle, and it was a very engaging match, but here's where indie promotions might struggle, and that's the not selling moves, where everyone seems to kick out of anything at any given time. And that's generally what a Matt Riddle match becomes, of whoever he's facing.
Something though,
But you're familiar with some of these guys. Tell me.
Yeah,
what you think.
Actually, where I got familiar with Matt Riddle, and I know he used to do MMA, way before. I'm not a big fan of MMA, but I do follow the product from time to time. But where I was really exposed to his wrestling was actually in Evolve, and a lot of his matches, they just. I followed Evolve on YouTube, so I was always catching up to see what was going on. And I was just exposed to a lot of his matches, and I always thought he was just an incredible performer. You going that, touching base on them not selling moves and whatnot. The way I see it is I just think that maybe kind of like prolongs the match and makes, I guess, the crowd, a lot more drawn to it, versus when you're already expecting a signature move to happen. It's like, okay, 1, 2, 3. And it's like, oh no, it was only a 2 count. The match is still going on. And I just figured maybe that's when they get the crowd in the palm of their hands. Of course, it's an art that they really need to accomplish if they're careful with it, but sometimes it might not be, the best decision, as far as putting on a show in front of an audience is concerned.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's not necessarily a thing you should never do. I'm just saying in the case of Matt Riddle's kind of gimmick and character, because he comes from this MMA background, maybe that's the point, is he's really hard to put down easily.
And it can be believable.
But anyways. Oh, sure, it can be. There's no doubt. Which we'll get to. That's a good segue into going to one of my favorite indie promotions, which is WXW, Westside Extreme Wrestling, which just had their big, but essentially their version of WrestleMania, let's call it. Their biggest pay-per-view of the year. It's called 16 Karat Gold, which is a 3-day event and a tournament to crown essentially just a champion. And it's more or less bragging rights, but what these bragging rights entail is you've beaten everybody within the promotion. You basically get a title shot, is how that works. And speaking of what happened in 16 Karat Gold, and if you you can definitely look up a lot of these indie promotions on YouTube, just watching like highlight videos to see if you'd be interested in it. I highly recommend watching some highlight videos of the 16 karat gold tournament to see what this promotion is capable of. Some of the stars, I'll just name 4 here to kind of summarize this the best I can. There are some stables in XW, but let's focus on the individual wrestlers first. You have David Starr, who's from Philadelphia, actually. More or less a journeyman, but he's kind of found a home in this German promotion, and he's a babyface, essentially. And what that means is he's a good guy. He's very over with the fans, and he always seems to have this endurance battle with wrestlers. And the best example is the finals of the 16 karat gold tournament came down to him and this guy named Absolute Andy from Nuremberg, Germany. And the name, Rad, may sound a little funny, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, a lot of the names in this German promotion are kind of corny, but they work. So Absolute Andy is a heel. He's a guy that perpetually cheats in every match he can. He'll do anything to win. Think of the Miz type character.
All right.
In WWE. I mean, he comes out in a sport jacket and sunglasses, and he just kind of blows kisses to the fans a bit with his hands. He's just got this cocky douchebag aura to him and really sells it well. But he pulls out moves that you just don't think this 275-pound dude will do. Because he's kind of stocky, he's not totally in shape, but he pulls things off. And the finals match between him and David Starr, basically Andy beats the crap out of David Starr, but David Starr will not give up. He just keeps kicking out. One of Andy's finishers is the F5. Sound familiar?
Of course.
He hits 2 of them and one from the top rope, and David Starr just keeps kicking out, but he's unable to fight back.
Okay.
And you see kind of the referee going, what are you going to do? And Andy even cheats a couple times, before all that happened, still couldn't put him down. There was even a moment where David Starr takes the chair that was brought in and hits Andy over the head with it. Which I haven't seen a head chair shot in quite some time, because that's kind of been
it's
forbidden in WWE.
Sure.
Yeah. But the moment was after he kicks out of the third F5, David Starr gets on his knees, gives Andy the double bird, and he picks him up and does this essentially Fallout Dominator move, and that's what finally pins him.
Okay.
And you see all the fans, just everyone in the stadium, all 1,000 people, just giving him the finger.
That's awesome.
And he's just got this big douchebag smile on his face. Yeah. Just he's like, haha, I win. So there's a very good picture of him like holding the trophy up, and a shot behind him is all the fans giving him the finger.
so that's what they didn't want then. He was the heel in this match, I'm guessing. Or is it just his calling card?
No, he's definitely the heel.
Okay.
Andy is the heel. And he plays it very well. And he cheated in every match in this tournament to win. So that's what kind of makes him even more over as hated. The other 2 guys is Ilya Dragunov, who's now the champion, who made a surprise appearance at 16 karat gold. He was this long time original, you might say, of the indie promotion, and he was thought to be injured, totally out of wrestling altogether.
Okay.
I guess he was finally cleared again to wrestle, and he's just this short, scrappy dude from the Soviet Union. Like all of his moves have this like communist type persona about him. What's his finishing move called? It's like the Flying Moscow.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So he won the title. When his music hit, the whole purpose of the title match on day 2 was one of the guys beats the champion, or he won the stipulation rights for the champion, John Klinger. He's nicknamed Bad Bones. He's the head of the heel faction in the company. And this guy goes, I might not be able to beat you alone, one-on-one, but this is no longer a one-on-one match. So his stipulation was to make it a triple threat with this guy making a major return, just to get the title off of the bad guy faction, which I thought was pretty cool, and it led to a really good match.
Yeah,
for sure.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah. So that was the big 16 karat pay-per-view of WXW. Would you be interested in watching more of this, Red? Does it sound like an indie promotion to check out?
Yeah, it actually does. I've heard about it before. I just can't really say that I've actually watched the product, but now with what you described, and I know you've been tweeting about it and discussing it, and some of the chats that we're in, it's really caught my attention. So maybe I'll definitely check it out.
I've tried to get the word out more of this. What I think the most interesting just thing that they do differently is it's more or less like a bilingual promotion with a lot of English and German stars.
Okay.
So you'll see the German stars doing promo packages, or they'll talk, and what you'll see on the screen are English subtitles then, and vice versa. The English stars will speak in English, and you'll have German subtitles. So whoever you are, the viewer, will understand what they're saying. And I couldn't help but think, if this tiny indie promotion can figure this out, why can't, say, WWE do this with their foreign stars?
Right. I think that would be awesome. I mean, to have them, speaking in their native language, I think the product would just come off as a lot more real, going back to the realism that we both are a fan of. And just make it interesting. I think heels sound a lot better if we don't understand what they're saying, Similar to what I guess happens in New Japan back when Kenny Omega would, speak in English on purpose. Back when he, turned into a heel, it just really worked. So I think that would work. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He goes, I don't.
Yeah,
need to
exactly.
talk in
And
your
everybody
language.
knew that
You
he
just
was
speak in English.
fluent in the Japanese language. So it just really worked, and I think that can come off very well on WWE TV. But I don't know. I guess their primary focus is just obviously, the West here in North America, and I guess they just rely on commentary to kind of like translate for the product everywhere else. But I think that would be really cool. I mean, if we're just all watching the same broadcast, and it's just kind of like translating it like that with subtitles and whatnot, sounds interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really cool, neat thing. The other thing that they do, because they don't have the time for promotions, is as I saw out on Twitter today, a lot of the wrestlers with this cross promotion with Progress were kind of calling each other out on Twitter, and it led to this kind of multi-thread feed of, well, if you guys want to fight, then I'll fight you too. Hey, seems like you guys want to fight. How about I put my title on the line because reasons.
Social media is another good platform.
Oh, especially for these indie promotions, and it really you get to see a different side of them. They use social media to stay in character, which we just don't see in WWE right now, which is a real problem. Alexa Bliss, for example, is facing Nia Jax at WrestleMania. We'll get into the card in a little bit here because we'll more or less speed this up a bit. But you see them on like Instagram and Twitter, like hugging it out and hanging out together and being best friends.
Yeah, I totally
personally
agree.
don't like
Kayfabe is dead. Yeah.
Well, at least in WWE it is right now. That's for sure. But in WXW and Progress, they're definitely using social media to kind of get their character over. The only one in WWE I can think of that's doing this right now is Kevin Owens, aka Kevin Steen on the indie scene, where he just got fired on SmackDown, right? And he changes his Twitter to just this black screen. He changed his name back to Kevin Steen.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
Kevin Owens, he's the only one kind of not being complacent about it all, Well, let's move on to probably one of the more controversial indie promotions now, and that's Impact Wrestling. What is your history with Total Nonstop Action, otherwise known as Impact Wrestling now, Rad? You're more familiar with this one for sure, I know that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. It was like my second go-to promotion. Obviously, after WCW died, just a year later, we got TNA. I remember my friend was talking about it, maybe weeks or months before, saying, yeah, Jeff Jarrett's going to start his own promotion. it really came off as being, exactly everything I remembered about WCW. So I was just drawn to it. I had a buddy that was like doing the renting the weekly pay-per-views. I think it was like $9.99 a week and whatnot. So we were just checking it out, and I really liked the product. So I definitely followed TNA from the beginning. Still though, at the time, I mean, I've always been a fan of mainstream wrestling, and to me, TNA just didn't come off as mainstream just yet. So I still preferred WWE, but I always felt it was an awesome alternative. And I pretty much followed with it through. There was times where I just wouldn't really watch it, but I definitely would catch up. And I know this might not be a popular opinion, but being that I grew up on guys like Hulk Hogan and Sting and all that, I actually really liked that Hulk Hogan Eric Bischoff era. I mean, as much of we did see a lot of bad stuff come out of that, but I feel that we saw a lot of good things. For example, the transition, Joker, Sting, Immortal, Fortune, the Knockouts had incredible matches way before the Women's Revolution was even a term.
Oh, we'll get into
and it just
women's
seems
wrestling for sure in a little bit.
Yeah, great. Because I'm a huge fan of women's wrestling, and I think this has been done years and years way before the Four Horsemen women, which I adore. I'm a fan of all four of them, but way before they came, into popularity, we had matches like that going on way back when in Impact Wrestling. So yeah, I'm definitely very familiar with the product. And as far as right now is concerned, I'm still surprised that it's continuing operations. It's just amazing. But what keeps me going back sometimes is just seeing wrestlers. Was it Johnny Impact? Is one that I like. Austin Aries went back. Eli Drake is an incredible performer, especially on the mic. And knockouts, such as Taya and Rosemary, incredible performers. I have nothing but good things to say about them. But the product itself is, I think, what's suffering right now. And the name tied to their product of professional wrestling is just tainted with, all the bad decisions that have been made these last couple of years.
Well, you're not wrong about everything you said, that's for sure. I'd like to just make a couple quick comments on what Impact's doing in 2018, because that's what this is, a 2018 kind of recap.
Right.
We've seen much of their roster gutted to end last year and to begin this year. We're recording on a Thursday night tonight, which is when Impact has their television broadcast. Well, I say television loosely.
Yeah.
With what channel they're on, Pop TV and wherever else it might be in Canada and what have you. They just had their Feast or Fired specialty match where there's briefcases on every corner. 3 of them have title opportunities, tag, X Division, and world title, while the 4th one is you're fired. I think it's safe to assume that EC3 is getting fired because he's been hired with NXT for quite some time.
Spoiler alert.
And he did in fact get a briefcase. But who knows? They could do a swerve and then, do some weird storyline. You don't know for sure, but might be safe to assume on that. But what we've seen is they've gotten rid of a lot of their highest paid performers, such as James Storm. He commanded just too high of a paycheck they just couldn't afford to pay anymore. There was recently a Twitter post that went out with Bray Wyatt taking a picture with him, so take that for what it's worth.
I wasn't aware of that, so he's gone from the company.
Yes, James Storm is gone from the company. He just commanded. I believe he was the highest paid guy, even more than Johnny Impact and Alberto El Patron.
Oh wow!
Otherwise known as Del Rio.
Okay, I guess he was trying to play his seniority card.
Oh, for sure, because he's been there since the beginning. He was their longest tenured guy, and he just didn't have. He doesn't have the name power that Alberto, Austin Aries, and Johnny Impact have, because they're all ex-WWE guys right now. Austin Aries, being an ex-WWE guy and a long-time Impact dude, he commands name value on both ends. And he was obviously sick with how he was being treated with WWE. So that's the state of their main event. What they got to do is rebuild their mid-card, because again, a lot of their mid-carders also left for other venues, or some of them just straight up retired.
Yeah.
And even in their women's division, A couple have left. Gail Kim retired, longtime knockout,
Right.
very talented performer. She commanded a paycheck of her own that was a lot higher because if I remember, Impact wanted to pay their women's wrestlers just as much because they've built their division so much, in my opinion, better than what WWE even currently has.
Right.
Because they book them so much more. They book them more interestingly. And Gail Kim and the roster, if you were name value, you got paid for your value, no matter if you're man or woman, which you can respect. So they what they did was they dumped a lot of salary. And now they're in rebuilding phase. It looks like they're getting rid of the Grand Championship through some dumb storyline with Josh Matthews,
Oh,
the announcer.
yeah.
Yeah. And it looks like they're going to focus on the X division itself being not just their cruiserweight, but also their mid card belt, and then have the main Impact belt, who's Austin Aries currently has as well. So it'll just take time, and it'll be interesting just to see this rebuilding process unfold.
I know they went back to the four-sided ring. Is that like a permanent solution, or have you heard anything on that?
I don't. It's not for sure. I think they're just testing it out because their 6-sided ring is what made it different. Right. But we'll see. We'll see. They're definitely down into tier 3 at this point for a reason. Well, do you have any hopes for Impact going forward in 2018, especially with this Lucha Underground crossover going?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. I recently just learned about that as well on social media, and actually I thought that was very interesting. I always thought that Impact would probably strive if they kind of cross-promoted themselves with a worthy, promotion, because I know that they've done it in the past, but it's always been, other promotions the same level, if not below. And Lucha Underground, I think, is really up there right now. And the fact that they're going to do that cross promotion, I just think that's great. So, as far as what I really hope comes out of them, I hate to see wrestling promotions die. I think it's very important to have a variety of competition out there. Other tastes other than what we see primarily in WWE. So, hopefully that's a good thing for them. Maybe if they bring in, more names. The only thing I'm afraid of, though, is that we've seen them do this, and they've had so many opportunities to do that, and I just never seen it go past that glass ceiling that they've hit, and they've just never been able to break it. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, but that was definitely good news, and I really hope the best for them. Since we're on the topic of where we would like to see them, what are your thoughts? I know a lot of people say, okay, well, why doesn't Impact Wrestling just die? Why doesn't Vince McMahon step in and purchase their videotape library, and the rest is history? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't want to just see it die, because right now, if it's not Ring of Honor, it's Impact Wrestling, and then there's not really. I mean, I guess you got Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, but that's like impossible to find.
Yeah, at least Impact has a television channel that they air their product on. Even if it's a B or C tier channel.
Yeah, exactly, and it's not. I'm not saying that Impact should die. I definitely agree with the direction they're going. I mean, it's sad that you got to let guys go. It is a business after all. But this rebuild that they're doing, they're starting from the ground up. Basically, how it began in the early 2000s, you have your few good names to go on, and you just build from there. Like Jeff Jarrett was the name which started TNA. He was the guy, and then built around him as the draw. Whatever your feelings on Jeff Jarrett may, put that aside, it did happen, and it did grow in that way. And that's kind of what they're doing with Austin Aries, Eli Drake, and so on. Building from the ground up seems to be the best idea, and it seems to be what they're doing. They're bringing back some of their older talents, such as Sanjay Dutt's now on commentary. Petey Williams
I heard about
is back
that as
in
well.
there.
Yeah, it was Petey Williams.
Yeah. So they're definitely getting some legacy guys in there just to kind of. What I feel their goal is to get these older guys back in to teach the younger guys sort of the basics on what to expect through the company. So I think it's okay. And hey, even if they're arguably the worst promotion in America right now, it's still somewhere to start, and it's easier to build from the ground up than not at all. That's what I say.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Well, the Knockouts division definitely didn't just come out of nowhere. They built that up from the start with it. I mean, that's where Mickie James went because she was sick of bra and panties matches. Same thing with Gail Kim. Then even when Impact is in the hole, their Knockouts division has always been solid and built well. And Rosemary is at the helm of it all, I feel.
Yeah, definitely the face of the company as far as the women are concerned.
Well, alright, so moving on to Tier 2, which is the Ring of Honor in New Japan. Now, this is more or less self-explanatory. We're out of the Tier 3 indie promotions. We don't have to go into so much detail, but it is worth discussing some of the major matches and pay-per-views that have happened so far in 2018. How much Ring of Honor do you watch, Rad?
I follow the product with everything that's going on social media. I follow it on YouTube. I definitely tune in. I would say if there is only one pay-per-view that I order, maybe two, it's probably Supercard of Honor and Final Battle. Being that Final Battle is kind of like, I guess, their version of WrestleMania or Starrcade, if anything. But that's
probably closer to Starrcade.
Yeah, yeah. I guess that's the best way to describe it. But that's pretty much it. So yeah, I'm just following the product, and if something interests me, I'll check out a pay-per-view and spend my Friday night watching some high-quality wrestling matches.
All right, who's a couple of your favorite guys in Ring of Honor right now?
In Ring of Honor, I like some of the guys that actually cross-promote with New Japan. So definitely like the Young Bucks. They're a draw for me. Marty as well. Cody Rhodes. Those are. I mean, I'm a Bullet Club guy, so definitely have those guys as my favorites. And as far as what the product looked like before, Adam Cole and his cronies in the Undisputed Era, jump ship. Definitely liked watching Kyle and Fish over there in Ring of Honor as well. So incredible guys, awesome performances from them. Any match that they were in, always 5 stars. So I have nothing but good things to say about Ring of Honor. Haven't really checked it out right now, though. I am definitely looking forward to the Supercard of Honor, but I don't think it's one that I'm gonna actually watch. I might just maybe check it out later on or buy the DVD. The two matches that I'm definitely looking forward to is Dalton Castle, defending his championship against Marty, and Cody Rhodes versus Kenny Omega. Awesome story behind that. I don't know what your thoughts are with the whole Bullet Club faction that's going on right now, but I definitely really dig the story that they're doing.
Well, let's hold off on Supercard. Let's build up to Supercard with what's happened already this year, because there's 2 pay-per-views that are of note, and that was Honor Reigns Supreme, strictly for one match, and that was Jay Lethal versus Jonathan Gresham. Not much of a build, but it is arguably the best match that's happened in Ring of Honor in 2018 so far. Those that aren't familiar with Jay Lethal, he's an ex-TNA guy, and much like a lot of TNA Impact dudes, when the company started getting hit hard, a lot of them jumped ship to Ring of Honor. Yeah. Christopher Daniels, Kazarian, Jay Lethal. I mean, the list goes on. It's especially since a lot of Ring of Honor guys got lapped up by WWE. The Kevin Owen, the Adam Cole. Mm-hmm. The list goes on there. But this Jay Lethal, Jonathan Gresham match was a selling goldmine. Jay Lethal's arm was worked on by Gresham throughout the entire match. There's a moment where he goes for his signature move, which is essentially a handspring off the ropes into a cutter, in which he goes for the handspring and just collapses on his own head because his arm couldn't sustain the weight. So there was moments like that throughout the match that led to just it was just sold so well on Lethal's side, and Grisham just put on probably the best performance of his career.
I gotta check it out. That's one I did read about it, but I just I didn't tune in.
Yeah, the rest of the pay-per-view was much to be desired, but that was the match that I took out of it. And then there's the Ring of Honor 16th anniversary show that they had. That featured a great 6-man tag match for their triple title, the triple tag title. It was Kingdom. No, it was Southern California Uncensored, SoCal Uncensored against Bullet Club. And what this plays into, that was a great match in itself. And that's SoCal Uncensored is Christopher Daniels, Scorpio Sky, and Kazarian. Kind of almost like the old Fortune, you might say,
right.
from Impact. Against Bullet Club. And that led to just this hardcore match from end to end. The Young Bucks look great as ever. And then there's a third stable called Kingdom. And they want to do this whole pact with SoCal to get their numbers higher than Bullet Club. So there's a lot of cool stables in Ring of Honor, which we don't see in WWE right now. There's nothing. There's hardly any tag teams at this point.
Completely dead. I guess the closest thing we have to it is the Undisputed Era, and they come from Ring of Honor, so it's kind of ironic. Yeah, on NXT.
And they're on NXT. And then, of course, coming from the 16th anniversary again, you got another Jay Lethal match against Dalton Castle for the title. And that was just... It not only made Lethal look like a proper opponent at any given time, it also made Dalton Castle look very strong, and he's got probably the best gimmick going around in Ring of Honor right now. And people forget, he's been champion since December already, so it's been a while. What are your feelings on Dalton Castle?
I'm not much of a fan of the guy, but I do think his character is very entertaining. He has an entertaining entrance and whatnot. But I know he's definitely over, and from what I've seen from different wrestling fans and on social media, he has a lot of guys behind him. They just it's really working for him. So again, I have nothing bad to say about the guy. I'm just not a fan of Dalton, but he is an entertaining guy and hell of a performer.
What do you think of his boys?
I guess I see it more as a hilarious, gimmick. I just think the whole thing is funny. Not my cup of tea, but that's what makes Dalton Castle who he is. So, I mean, how long has he had those guys? It's already been about 3 years now, maybe.
Oh man, it's been a while, but I don't know. For some reason now they're just coming into their own because they're basically like his. Think of the old Roman. For those that aren't familiar with what we mean by the boys, he's got these two guys. Imagine like Caesar in the old Roman Empire, and he's on like a lounge chair, and he's got these flamboyant dudes with fans. If he's tired or feeding him grapes.
Yeah.
It's those kind of guys. So anytime Dalton Castle gets like knocked down in the corner of the mat, there they are, like fanning him down.
Yeah.
They're jumping around on the ring mat, like yelling at the ref. It's very entertaining, that's for sure. It's worth at least checking out a YouTube video of just the boys and what Dalton Castle does. Like, even in his entrance, he makes them one of their footstools. He doesn't go up the stairs to the ring. He walks on them to get into the ring. Like, he'll have the boys like take his clothes off, and then he'll get his peacock pose.
They're definitely his slaves. I wonder when they're gonna snap from that. I'm pretty sure that's bound to happen sometime down the road.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. They're definitely entertaining and interesting. That kind of goes into what happened was Marty Scurll faced Punishment Martinez. This giant, like, Latino dude who's got this Undertaker kind of feel to him.
Yeah.
Well, Scurll beat him. He was the number one. Just a simple booking decision to get you interested in the match. The winner of that became the number one contender for the title. Scurll won. As soon as the match was over, Skrull came out and like looked at him, stared him down. He's like, I'm next. So that's the super card. I'm looking forward to that match just as much as you are, Rad.
So you're gonna definitely be ordering it?
I'll find a way to watch it.
Nice. Enough said.
Enough said there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wrestling to watch. Only so much money to go around.
Is that gonna be on Friday or Saturday?
Saturday. So it's the same night as NXT, I believe.
Oh man, that's that's kind of tough. I really love the NXT Takeover pay-per-views. So, but I don't know. If there is one match that I'll definitely pay money to watch, it's Cody Rhodes versus Kenny Omega, and I am looking forward to the Ring of Honor World Championship between Dalton and Marty. So, I guess we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'll probably stay in touch with you in the chat and see where we go from there.
Yeah, the Cody and Kenny Omega match has been brewing for months now, ever since New Beginnings in New Japan, with Cody kind of turning on him.
Yeah.
That kind of broke the internet, and it's led to this match in Ring of Honor of all places, even though it happened in New Japan. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. I was expecting it to take place on New Japan Pro Wrestling, but no, it's going to be at the Supercard of Honor, so that's interesting.
Well, instead, they're doing New Japan is getting the golden duo of Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi against the Young Bucks. That's what's happening there. On the pay-per-view, I believe that's happening this Sunday. But the podcast will come out after that. The other ones on the card actually have quite a bit of interest going, because there's Adam Page against Kota Ibushi. And that might have future New Japan US title implications if, say, Page wins the title in New Japan,
right?
And Ibushi beats him at Supercard.
I think it seems to me that that's what they're trying to. I think Page is what they're trying to build towards, and he just might be that guy that they definitely want to push in that championship scene. Definitely focusing heavily on him as well in this Cody versus Kenny storyline.
Oh yeah, because he was kind of the catalyst.
Yeah.
Especially after Kenny lost the U.S. title to Jay White.
Mm-hmm.
Another match is Punishment Martinez against Tomohiro Ishii. He's the bulldog, the big Punisher dude of New Japan. So that should just be a hard hitting match. I'm not totally invested in that one. There's a 6-man tag champion match between So-Called Censored and the Kingdom, because Bullet Club's busy right now with their own internal conflict. So that's stable on stable action. That's pretty cool. That should be a hard-hitting affair. And then there's a world tag match, just the regular tag titles of the Briscoes, who just recently won back the titles for, God, what is it, the 8th or 9th time?
Yeah, they're tag team veterans.
They're insane looking, just rugged dudes. Yeah. They look like they're straight out of like Mississippi or something.
Yeah.
They're missing teeth. They look like I already said what they look like, but they're facing a very interesting team combination of Jay Lethal and Tanahashi from New Japan. So you got some name power there.
Oh yeah.
Going for that match. So it's almost like two single star veterans teaming up for the first time against a veteran legit tag team. I'm very interested in that one. Because imagine what would happen if Jay Lethal and Tanahashi win the Ring of Honor tag titles. Do they go to Japan and start talking shit?
Maybe that's probably where it'll continue. Maybe they have some sort of program, brewing for the future there.
Yeah, you got the Briscoes like interrupting matches in New Japan. I don't know. It seems this conglomeration between Ring of Honor and New Japan seems to be working quite well right now. That's something that it seemed to start in 2017 and has really evolved this year with a lot of this cross promotion.
Oh yeah,
and we're seeing
it's
it
like
at the biggest Ring of Honor pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's like the norm. These days it's just part of the product. They go hand in hand now, which I'm a fan of. I think it's working. It's really hot right now, and I'm liking that we're seeing guys from both promotions on each other's events.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, there's rumors on social media of going back to Impact and Lucha Underground that they're gonna have kind of an invasion angle going on of just them crossing over into promotions and just causing mayhem.
That should be cool.
Yeah, so that's just the rumor right now. It might just start with a few matches and evolve from there. Speaking of cross promotion, at the 16th anniversary after Kenny King won the TV title, Austin Aries came out and looked at him with his pile of belts in hand, because Austin Aries is just going around the globe collecting belts. And he goes, "I've never won the Ring of Honor TV title, and you got what I want." And Kenny King's just like, "Come and get it." So I expect that to be on the Supercard, and I would be all over that match.
Yeah, that
just
would
imagine
be cool.
Austin Aries walking around with now 5 belts if he wins that title.
Oh man, that'd be freaking awesome. All that and a banana in his pocket.
Oh my god, right now he's got the Impact World title, the IPW title, the Defiant title, and there's a 4th one that I just can't remember.
It's already too many.
Jeez. So that should be fun. Well, speaking of New Japan, how about we move on to there?
Yeah, definitely.
Because New Japan is ridiculous this year. Ranging from starting off with Wrestle Kingdom, as they do, with the Kenny Omega versus Jericho match.
Very huge.
5 stars, in my opinion. Yeah. It's the second best match this year for me.
Wait, so which is your first so far? Or is that a discussion later on?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that. You had Okada and Naito, which was very hype. And then Goto versus Minoru Suzuki, which is like the hardest hitting match you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then they go into New Beginnings shortly after in Sapporo and Osaka. Another like 3-day kind of thing. 2 days in Sapporo, 1 day in Osaka, like I think it was like a month later. Where we saw Jay White versus Kenny Omega with the US title and the fallout from that. And then Tanahashi against Minoru Suzuki for the Intercontinental title. And that was a match I basically came into my pants to. It was that damn good. Have you seen this match?
No, that one in particular I haven't, but I've heard real good things about it.
Oh my god. It's from the get-go. It is just, it begins as hard-hitting, intimidating. Tanahashi's known as the John Cena of New Japan, where he just never gives up. He's kind of the face. And Minoru Suzuki, ever since the Goto match where he lost and shaved all of his hair off, he just looks like this badass, scary dude. And what ends up happening is Minoru Suzuki essentially tortures the title off Tanahashi, where the ref had to stop the match because Tanahashi wasn't giving up and Suzuki just wasn't letting go of the holds. So the referee just goes, "All right, come on, match over."
Yeah, enough.
Like, it was, to me, that's the best match I've seen this year from a pure wrestling standpoint, and even the build that went up to it.
So that was the one that I guess we were gonna wait on. That's your favorite match so far.
That's the one.
I thought maybe you were gonna talk about the match between Almas and Johnny Wrestling over at the Takeover pay-per-view, which was an incredible match.
Oh, don't get me wrong. That's an incredible match.
That's what I thought maybe might have been yours.
I think that's still number 3 compared to a couple New Japan matches. Because let's face it, WWE just can't. It seems to have a hard time building anything these days. You know, rivalry, a reason to fight. Johnny Wrestling carried that build for that match against Almas.
It was good stuff, you know, the performance, the storyline and whatnot. But I guess we'll discuss that down the road here on the cast.
Oh, yeah, because that's really the only... I mean, there's only been a couple standout matches in WWE, considering how many pay-per-views they'd had, their star power. But anyways, we'll get to that later. I'm curious to who your favorite New Japan wrestlers are.
Oh, that's an easy one. Again, I'm a Bullet Club guy, so Kenny Omega. The funny thing is that I really wasn't exposed to independent wrestling or anything outside of WWE and Impact Wrestling until AJ Styles left TNA. Then we saw him end up in New Japan Pro Wrestling, straight up joined the Bullet Club, became the leader. And I noticed that they started airing a lot of that stuff on Access TV, which was my exposure to New Japan Pro Wrestling. And from then on, I just instantly became a fan. And I think that's probably what actually. AJ Styles going to New Japan kind of like maybe just a lot of people opened their eyes to the product outside of WWE, and they were like, oh wow, there's wrestling everywhere else. It's just something that definitely really made me change the channel, and I'm glad that I did. Definitely became a fan of the Bullet Club. I've always been a mark for the NWO, so it's definitely something that I saw very similar to it, and I just loved it. All of AJ Styles' matches, always 5-star. He had a lot of amazing matches with Okada. That was great. When Kenny Omega joined Bullet Club, the character that he revealed, it was like a real life video game comic book character come to life. It was just amazing, and I instantly got sucked right in. So, like I said, I'm just a Bullet Club guy, so Kenny Omega is definitely my favorite. I like Okada. He always has, amazing performances, especially his matches with Kenny Omega. Yeah, just a workhorse.
Oh,
everything he does, the exchanges that he has. I forget what pay-per-view it was, but when he wrestled AJ Styles, they had like probably one of the greatest exchanges I had ever seen in professional wrestling. The finish was just amazing, and they kept on doing their signature moves, but kept on reversing the other one just back and forth. Again, I can't remember what pay-per-view that was, but that was just amazing. So yeah, definitely like Okada, Kenny Omega. And believe it or not, Jay White is actually already growing on me with this new Switchblade character that he has going on, and it kind of reminds me of what Kenny Omega was at the very beginning when he joined Bullet Club. So, I have a buddy of mine on Twitter actually, and he's not a fan of Jay White because he's a huge Kenny Omega mark. That's like his favorite wrestler ever, and he sees Jay White as like a bogus Kenny Omega, a fake one. Just trying to copy every move that Kenny Omega did, but it's definitely working for him, and I can see why a lot of people are already liking him, and I'm definitely jumping on board. So that guy definitely has an amazing future ahead of him, and he's like a young guy. I think he's like 21 right now or something.
I thought Jay White's 26.
20.
But
okay,
he looks like he's 19.
Yeah, he looks very young. Still young nonetheless, but he definitely has a bright future ahead of him, and it looks like they're already pushing him into main event storylines. So. Those are my top 3 guys.
He is 25.
25, okay.
Yeah. Turns 26 this
year.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought he was a lot younger than that. But still, I mean...
I'm still not totally sold on Jay White, but the Switchblade gimmick is growing on me. I won't deny that. Right. He just looks like he's 19, so I can't quite buy this kind of badass thing he's going for.
Yeah, he still looks like a punk kid.
Yeah, I mean, that U.S. title match he had at New Beginnings with Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega just carried himself as this cocky dude. He's like, you're not on my level. Beats the living shit out of Jay White. There's a moment in there that stands out where Jay White's on his knees and he's just getting his head kicked off, and then he starts laughing with his shoulders like, yeah, okay, just kick me again, whatever.
Yeah.
It was a very defining moment for him, and to just get that surprise win. Not only focuses, it was just good booking overall, and Kenny Omega just being pissed off. Yeah, he got the better of me, just accepting the loss. The build with constantly Jay White getting the better of him, hitting that finisher, just one-upping. It's good booking. That's what New Japan seems to be just nailing this year. Just left and right. And it's not just with, say, Jay White. It's with how they're booking Bullet Club, how they're booking their stables.
Yeah, everything. And that's what I'm a fan of. I love stables. And like you said, that's something that's really lacking in WWE. And one thing that I see in New Japan's product is that it really reminds me of what WCW once was. And I'm glad that there's a promotion like that because, I'm still a fan of WWE. I will till the day I die. We all grew up on it. But it's just a show, even more so right now. It's just for entertainment. not that it's an insult to people's intelligence, but they come off as being a show. They make it so obvious that it's and I hate using this term, but that it's fake. And somewhere like New Japan Pro Wrestling, they make it look real. It looks like an actual competition, real sporting event. Instead of focusing on, gimmicks and characters, it's more on, the performance in the ring. Of course, there's storytelling leading up to the matches, but again, it's all realistic. Plus, I love how they go to the back after like every match and they discuss like what happened, what their thoughts are. It's just awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of that's their frustrating moments. They're accepting, what have you. New Japan's very good at that. Now, one thing that people might have an issue with is their constant barrage of tag team matches that they do. Whether it's house shows or especially at pay-per-views, but what they do with these tag matches is interesting. Such as, I'll just give you one example. There was I believe it was a 6-man tag match between Naito's group, Los Ingobernables, against whatever, I think it was a particular group in Chaos. And these stables are much bigger than you imagine. Like Bullet Club in New Japan's like 12 people. Chaos, which is Okada's group he started. Chaos is kind of like a mentor group, you might say. The Face stable. And what ended up happening there was Naito was getting cocky. He was talking shit the whole time, and one member of Chaos had an issue with him. So after the match, he got on the mic and he's like, "Naito, you piece of shit! Don't be saying those things to me." Naito kind of brushed him off. He's like, "You're not even worth my time." I think it was Yoshihashi, and he jumps him and spits on Naito, and Naito still wouldn't have anything to do with him. Like, he got spit on his face, and he's still just like, you can do that. You're still not worth my time. Like, that's what New Japan kind of does with these tag matches, is they build on a future one-on-one match, and it's a way for them to rest their wrestlers instead of these massive or just short-end single matches, because it does a lot less damage on the body. They're not as exhausted. And when they do have single matches... They have continuity to them. So, and the continuity can be best described in what happened in the New Japan Cup recently, which just ended. But I'd rather talk about the junior heavyweight division itself first. It's one of my favorite belts out there. It's not quite it's not the open weight title that New Japan has, where it's for part-time wrestlers. That kind of feels like the universal title in WWE right now. The junior heavyweight's more of this the hybrid cruiserweight, not heavyweight division. I like to see it as kind of the workhorse belt. That's not the Intercontinental. The Intercontinental is that mid-tier.
Yeah. That's a perfect way to describe it.
What do you think of the junior heavyweight division itself in New Japan? Because it's very unique compared to any other promotion out there.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think it's great. It really, going back to the whole product, having that WCW feel, it reminds me to what the Cruiserweight Championship was in WCW in the mid to late 90s. It was a really big deal. I mean, they never got the opportunity to maybe main event that championship belt, which I want to say maybe it might have been main evented on Saturday night, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, they really made it feel like it was important. Like, it just wasn't that championship belt that nobody, cares about. And as far as the Cruiserweight division right now in WWE is concerned, I actually enjoyed the Cruiserweight Classic. When was that? Early last year. But now with the whole 205 Live...
It's a year and a half ago now.
2 years ago, right? Okay. Yeah. Wow, it's already been a while. I just, with the whole 205 Live product right now, I just can't get into it. I don't care for it. It doesn't seem important to me, and this junior championship in New Japan Pro Wrestling really gives off that big fight feel. Whether it's the opening or a pre-show match, they really make a big deal out of it, and I love that. Every championship title means something, and that's something that lacks in WWE today.
Yeah, even though I think the only titles that have less meaning in New Japan is their abundance of tag team titles. Right. Especially with a lot of the stables, I think they would only need maybe one tag title. That's just me. Their original. Instead of the they have a junior tag title, a 3-person tag title. I think there's one more, and then the regular tag title. Like, to me, that's when you got what I call title dilution.
Yeah,
it makes everything seem less important. Luckily, New Japan hasn't done that quite yet with their Intercontinental title and their US title, their more recent ones. But with their junior heavyweight one, they really emphasize like what to expect out of it. That's why at Wrestle Kingdom that Fatal 4-Way was so big between Skrull, what's his name, Takahashi, Hiromu Takahashi, I believe. That's the Time Bomb guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I hope I'm not mixing up his name with someone else, because there's a few last names in there that carry over. And Will Ospreay is the current champion, and he's nuts. If you haven't seen even a highlight video of Will Ospreay doing some of the moves he does, he's this British dude that just does the epitome of flippy shit.
Yeah.
But he's not spot fest heavy. Not so much anymore. I feel that not only New Japan has cut down on a lot of the spot festy stuff, but Ring of Honor, at least what I'm seeing in 2018, has really cut down on just spot after spot after spot. Because that gets tiring. Me as a fan can't buy into the match itself, because I'm just like, oh, okay, they'll take a move, get up, do another one, get up, do another one, reverse, then the other guy's fine again.
Yeah, you can't do it too much.
Ring of Honor was notorious for that. They were kind of the starters of it. In 2018, from what I've seen so far in some of their pay-per-views, they stopped, and New Japan has stopped quite a bit of that as well, especially with a few of the tag matches of note, such as Roppongi 3K against the Young Bucks. I believe that was at New Beginnings Sapporo Day 2, if I'm not mistaken. Very good tag match. Not very spot festy. It involved Matt Jackson taking a bad bump outside the ring, and he hurt his back, and that led to his brother Nick kind of carrying the match, and them not being able to perform a lot of moves because of the brother's back injury. It's when you start doing things like that, like you said, Rad, it makes you buy into it just that little bit more, and it makes such a difference while you're watching a wrestling match.
Yeah.
Well, some of my favorite wrestlers, before I get into the New Japan Cup in Japan, is I love Naito. He's got so much personality and cockiness to him. The fans seem to hate him and love him at the same time. I'm very much the same way. I'm like, oh my god, just concentrate on the matches. And I'm like, I love you. Oh, whatever. Kenny Omega's a no-brainer. That dude just exudes personality in just him walking.
Yeah.
And for a third guy, I'm gonna kind of throw a curveball here. I've been really getting into Sonata this year and what he's doing, how he's performing in the ring, but Minoru Suzuki's been knocking it out of the park with me this year. Just him in any tag match, him walking to the ring, his music hits. That's why I like wrestling. This guy right there is Minoru Suzuki. He's like my number one favorite wrestler today right now, just because of his personality and what he does in the ring.
Right.
Which now leads into the New Japan Cup. Brad, how familiar are you with what has happened in the Japan Cup? So, what happened in it?
Yeah, this is one thing that I'm actually looking forward to hearing from you on, because I haven't followed it whatsoever.
So it was especially interesting in the booking decisions this year and who was in it. So there were some fun matches, some hard hitting from Michael Elgin versus Ishii in the first round, which was just two big dudes going at each other.
Sure.
Very good. I recommend to check that out. And then there was Tanahashi. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Tanahashi, John Cena of Japan, facing off against... he faced against... Shit. What was his name? It wasn't the Juice Robinson match. It was...
I guess this was before that?
No. Tanahashi against Zack Sabre in the finals, and then there was a match before that. I'll move on because then I'll just be rambling. Zack Sabre Jr. was the MVP of the tournament. You watch every single Zack Sabre Jr. match, and there seemed to be some sort of storyline built into it. His first round he faced Naito, made him submit. Then he faced Kota Ibushi, made Ibushi submit. Faced off in the finals against and then he faced Sonata, the up and comer, who just faced Okada at the previous pay-per-view. And the funny thing is there, as Sonata went on through his matches, he was getting noticeably more and more injured in his legs. Something when he got to Sabre just couldn't put up with anymore, and he submitted.
Oh, wow.
And then finally, Sabre Jr. faced Tanahashi, who was just coming off a couple hard-hitting victories, but also getting basically tortured out of his title, as I mentioned before, against Suzuki. And Sabre is part of Minoru Suzuki's stable, and Suzuki Gun, or Goon, as they like calling it over there. So everything kind of played together in a very interesting way. Every match seemed to matter for later. Even at the finals of the New Japan Cup on the final day, you had Juice Robinson, who had a great match against Tanahashi. That must have been the one I was thinking of. Pin the openweight champion, Goto.
Okay.
Just in one of the tag matches. Everything plays together. The New Japan Cup was very fun to watch. I recommend watching Day 3 in particular. Besides the finals, naturally. Because Day 3 consisted of Yoshihashi against Kota Ibushi, which led to a couple good spots, very, very good match, and then the Naito Zack Sabre Jr. match in the first round. So Naito's been on a bit of a losing streak in recent weeks. Everything in the New Japan Cup did such a good job in booking and continuity, which WWE just doesn't do.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my comments over it. And Zack Sabre Jr. just came out looking like a torturous beast with his technical skills, his skinny body just going in and out of his opponent's arms and legs and manipulating joints. They've built it up to when he faces Okada's never faced this kind of opponent before. This style, it's going to be very different. They got and Sabre joining Suzuki Gun has this more vindictive kind of personality to him. It makes his in-ring style look that much more dangerous. So coming out of the New Japan Cup, just there was so much to take away from it, with new rivalries building or old rivalries going, building up the talent the way they are, because Sonata still looks strong, Naito's looking weak, Tanahashi looks more and more injured every day. Everything's building on each other. I love it. Yeah, Rad. I think watching at least the finals and Day 3 is worth going back to.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, but probably moving on from here before we run out of time is women's wrestling. That's our next topic.
Excellent.
So, who are your favorite 3 non-WWE women wrestlers, Rad?
Oh man, it's a tough one. I know we've kind of discussed this briefly before, but I definitely like Toni Storm, Santana Garrett, maybe Bea Priestley. I love her character. So intimidating. I've heard she's quite the sweetheart in real life, but I guess she's really playing it well. So. Just some of my favorite non-WWE women out there, and I think they're amazing performers. I know you're a fan of Toni Storm as well. So, there you have it.
Yeah, I mean, Toni Storm's, before Nixon Newell left Britain and signed with NXT, I would have said her, but now it's Toni Storm, hands down. It's not even close. She's the current women's champion in WXW. Mm-hmm. She's, I believe... She holds 2 belts in Stardom currently, which is the Japanese women's wrestling program.
Right.
Which is arguably the best women's program outside of WWE right now.
Yes.
barring Women of Honor becoming a thing, which they're currently building. And I love Tennille Dashwood and what she brings to the ring and her name power. But I'm not going to put her in my top 3 quite yet. She needs to prove herself. Maybe that match against Toni Storm coming up in May will change my mind. But I really like Rosemary in Impact Wrestling.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Another favorite of mine. I like both her and Taya.
Taya Valkyrie's very interesting. She's got this lucha kind of style for women, and she's got power to go with it. It's different. Right. But yeah, Bea Priestley definitely grew on me, especially with that Nixon Newell rivalry they had in Britain last year.
Yeah, that's definitely one that I followed over at Defiance back when it was What Culture. They had a lot of amazing matches, and that's where I was exposed to Bea Priestley the most. But before I started getting into that, I remember seeing pictures of her. I don't remember if it was on social media or Pro Wrestling Illustrated. But being that I'm a gamer, I know you're a gamer as well, JD. She dresses as Melina from Mortal Kombat. I was a huge Mortal Kombat kid, growing up, so that really drew me to her. And when I saw her matches, I was like, "Holy crap, this chick can go! She's an amazing performer." She had incredible matches with Nixon over at Defiant, so that's where I was exposed to both of them. So both amazing women in the ring.
Yeah, we keep bringing up Nixon Newell. She's a very young talented woman. She got her start in Defiant, and I believe she was in IPW in Progress. She traveled around. She was signed with NXT for the Women's Classic tournament.
Yeah,
and then blew her ACL out, and so she's coming back from injury pretty soon. So keep an eye out for her. Big time. She's got one of the best shining wizards in the industry.
Yeah.
But it looks I'm very curious to what they're going to do, since it looks like Adam Cole has that move now as his finisher, because WWE doesn't like two people having the same moves.
Finisher, right?
Yeah, which I don't agree with personally, especially if it's your finisher. Who cares if it's someone else's moves? Ty Dillinger had the tiebreaker, and then just because AJ Styles has it as a regular move, I mean, you can perfect a move, and that's your finisher. That's my take on that.
Yeah, I think what WWE tends to do is that they also treat their finishers and signature moves as products in itself, sort of a trademark. So like, oh no, you know what, this is the signature of our top guy, and that's who it belongs to, so we're going to trademark that term, that kind of thing. And they just can't move past the fact that some of these wrestlers, as you mentioned, have perfected it before the world of WWE, and I think they should still be allowed to continue using that. I mean, if Bayley, and again, she's another superstar that I don't mind. I actually adore her performances in the ring, but she's allowed to use that elbow drop. I mean, why can't anybody else?
Right. I mean, thank God Kairi Sane has her elbow drop. Maybe it's because it looks so much different. But they were going to originally take
I'm glad you brought that up,
her.
because I want to say that was a huge concern for a lot of fans when she was coming over from Stardom into the Mae Young tournament. And, they were like, oh, I wonder if she's going to be allowed to use that elbow drop. And I think that's her, that's her move, and that's what makes her one of the best in the ring, is that elbow drop. It's part of her. So I'm just so glad that they allowed her to keep it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We keep bringing up Stardom. It's this Japanese women's promotion, because if you've noticed, New Japan doesn't have women into their program. Stardom is a completely separate thing, and one match I highly recommend is the Toni Storm Io Shirai match for their big title. It's like a 34-minute women's match, and it's fantastic. Yep. You can find it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know what Io Shirai is, you just don't keep up with whether it's women's wrestling or even women's wrestling in Japan.
Oh, she's the one to check out, definitely.
She is arguably the best women's wrestler on the planet.
Yeah.
In not only mic skills but also in ring skills. I mean, imagine Alexa Bliss Bliss's mic skills with Charlotte's in-ring skills, and you got Io Shirai, except her own personality.
There you go. Yeah.
That's maybe the closest way I can put it right now off the top of my head.
Oh yeah, and she probably has like Charlotte's skills times 10. She's just an amazing performer. Takes a lot of performs a lot of high risk maneuvers. Dives off the top rope. She's just amazing.
Yeah, there's probably. I mean, if WWE would induct foreigners into its little Hall of Fame, she would, as soon as she hangs up the boots, she would be in.
Yep,
is what we're saying.
Absolutely.
And we always bring up Toni Storm because she exudes a lot of personality just in the ring and her style, and she has this kind of chill back, defend the title persona about her. And she's I think she's from Australia, not New Zealand.
Right, Australia.
Yeah. Which we see a lot of women wrestlers coming out of that region now.
I've
a lot
noticed.
Of indie wrestlers in general.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot. They have a lot of good talents coming from there, especially in New Zealand.
Yeah, I wonder what's happening there. Who's training these people?
Lance Storm.
They're all Storms. Well, that's that's women's wrestling. The big match coming up, I've mentioned this probably twice already, is the Toni Storm to Neil Dashwood match coming out in May. That's through WXW. That's probably the women's match to keep an eye out for outside of WWE. And speaking of WWE, Rad, I think it's time. We can't just not talk about it. Especially with WrestleMania.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's time to get into it, and I think there's one topic that you wanted to discuss in particular, probably the highlight of the week in the world of professional wrestling.
So Daniel Bryan's back. That's why don't you bring us up to speed on that?
Okay, sure. Yeah, well, I guess when was it? Tuesday morning, social media blew up that apparently WWE sent out an announcement saying that Daniel Bryan was officially cleared by doctors and he would return to in-ring action. So social media just completely blew up. I myself, when I saw that, I totally marked out. I was, very happy for the guy. It was just so sad to see, such an amazing performer, especially at his young age, have to walk away and not willingly. He after it was announced, he came out on SmackDown, opened the show. Very important announcement. It was Daniel Bryan, the person, not the WWE character, speaking from the heart. And we learned that it had been a hard 2 years since his retirement. Walking away for him. That he was depressed, had a lot of support from his wife, Brie Bella, and went to go get a second opinion. It turned out that he got cleared. Then he went to go take a look with another doctor. Same thing, so on and so forth. So he finally brought it back to WWE. They cleared him, and now it looks like he's going to be back. When is still the question. I know he teased WrestleMania. That's what the fans in the audience stated that they wanted as well. But I don't think that we're going to see it so soon. I can't remember what he mentioned, but he kind of totally dismissed that idea. So maybe we'll see him down the road, SummerSlam, or maybe even WrestleMania next year. I know he'll probably have to train, work off a lot of ring rust, but I was definitely happy for the guy, and I think so was the entire world. We're going to see Daniel Bryan again. This whole Yes movement is still as powerful as ever, and it's funny that we're bringing this up, JD, because this to me seems like Shawn Michaels all over again. He had his back, it gave out back in 1998, was told that he was never going to wrestle again. We saw him every now and then make sporadic appearances as like the honorary commissioner, or his little run with the NWO in 2002,
right,
until finally he came out of retirement for one match only at SummerSlam against Triple H, and all of a sudden it became somewhat of a permanent solution after that. He won the world title at Survivor Series that year in the first ever Elimination Chamber, and then he had some of the best matches in his career, during his second run. So if Daniel Bryan is able to pull this off, maybe we might see some matches that we haven't seen before. I know there's a lot of dream matches that a lot of people are looking forward to against the likes of the guys like, AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, the highly anticipated revenge match against The Miz for all that talking smack that they would share. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. But I honestly believe in Daniel Bryan, and I think we will get a very successful second run. But that begs the question with how severe was his previous injury, and let's hope he doesn't get hurt again. But the fact that he's clear, he seems to be healthy enough to step back in the ring, one more time.
Well, clearly, what happened on SmackDown with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn beating the living shit out of him.
Yeah,
that was the test. Can you take a bump? Right.
Right.
Maybe that's why they weren't hinting WrestleMania so fast, just in case after this beatdown, he's not cleared again. Because one of the stipulations in him coming back, as I read through WWE, is he has to go through impact testing after every match.
Oh, okay.
So
I didn't know that.
They're really looking at how because they don't want what happened to Sting and himself to happen again. Because Sting was in the middle of the match against Seth Rollins and he just went numb.
Yeah, that was horrible to watch.
It was especially with Sting being in such physical condition, even at his age, he was still able to take a lot of it, and just one stinger, that's all it took.
Yeah,
and they seem to be doing something like that with Daniel Bryan with his impact testing after every performance, and that also then begs the question: how will this affect Daniel Bryan's in-ring style? Because it's very dangerous, even for a wrestler. It's 110%, nothing less.
Right.
I mean, even that running drop kick into the corner, he essentially lands on his own neck every time.
Yeah. So that's definitely an impact he's gonna have to keep in mind.
Or will he even care? If he can't do his own moves, does he feel the same way? There's a lot to take into account, but it's good to see him back nonetheless. I suspect that he'll be back like maybe the week before WrestleMania, and him and Shane will take on Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
That's what it looks like. I'm really hoping to see that, even if he's just doing I guess like a part-time gig and just kind of like standing out most of the match. I'd be happy to see that, but again, his health comes first. So if he isn't ready, they might not want to jump the gun on that one.
Right, and then what do you do with Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Shane McMahon at that point? Would it be a 1-on-2 handicap match? Does Shane McMahon get a mystery partner, or is it just Shane McMahon against Kevin Owens again? Who knows what's going to happen there at WrestleMania with that? But then that begs the question: then, who are your favorite WWE guys right now, Rad?
Definitely AJ Styles. He's been my favorite wrestler for quite some time.
Since those TNA
oh yeah,
days, right?
and even before that, I actually noticed him towards the end of WCW when he was a tag team, Air Paris, I believe it was called. I remember seeing maybe about 2 matches before the promotion died, and he just really stood out. And then finally, I'm watching TNA, and then I see this guy who I'm familiar with, AJ Styles. I'm like, oh wow! And then he suddenly becomes like the face of the company. So I've just always really liked the guy, but I became a hardcore fan of AJ Styles probably around the time that he made his silent return to TNA in 2013 when the Aces and Eights storyline was going on, and they were trying to recruit him,
right,
to wear the colors. I thought that was amazing TV, and that's where I really I just became a huge fan, and I could consider him my number one. He joined Bullet Club, and that blew up tenfold. So, huge fan of the guy. I'm also a fan of Randy Orton, believe it or not. I know that might not be a popular opinion. Yeah, I've been
really
a fan of Randy Orton since he debuted in WWE, especially in the Evolution days. I've always looked up to the guy. So I don't mind watching an RKO out of nowhere. So yeah, he's probably my second favorite, and my third, I would say maybe it's either between Shinsuke Nakamura and Finn Balor. But definitely those 3 guys.
It's hard to tell based on the booking right now, though.
Yeah, it really is.
Oh man, well, that's not bad. Mine is for sure AJ Styles. But I'm gonna have to stick in the NXT because right now Almas has just stolen my heart.
Oh man, that guy's an incredible performer. That last match that we were just discussing a little bit earlier was amazing, and I think, like you said, Johnny Wrestling had a lot to do with it. He just really carried that match and turned it into a 5-star match.
But you see, why I like Almas is no matter who he wrestles, that seems to happen.
Yeah. He definitely has it.
Whether he has that in-ring persona about him that seems to bring out the best in his opponents. It reminds me a lot. Now, no way am I saying he is Ricky Steamboat by any means. He's got a long ways to go.
Sure, but I can see why.
He does give me a lot of the same feels and vibes of while you're watching that kind of match unfold.
Yeah.
And what's done it is his now manager Selena Vega.
Oh yeah,
doing all the talking, and it's really put him over the top.
Yeah, definitely working well now.
And then now Adam Cole's in WWE, so I gotta go Adam Cole.
Dude, hell yes, yeah, Adam Cole is good.
So let's start with 205 Live and what's happened. So you brought up the Cruiserweight Classic that happened like 2 years ago now. It feels forever, and everyone was all excited for this new promotion essentially WWE is doing of the cruiserweights. The cruiserweight title's back. You get some high flying dudes. What ended up happening is you had this gutted roster of all the guys that pretty much competed in there, but it suffered through WWE booking. And what we mean by that is it's a slew of single matches. You see the same thing over and over again, along with the booking of TV, which WWE tends to do is you have the guy do his 5 moves. As you said, Rad, earlier, it's almost like part of their advertisement of that character.
Right.
They have these 5 moves. That's all they're going to do. Kind of easy to predict who's going to win, and then you move on to another match. Not really any build towards any matches. No prolonged storyline going on. You might get one guy going, oh, you're terrible, I'm the best, and we're done.
Yeah.
What's happened is in 2018, Vince stepped aside and Triple H has now officially taken over. There was this guy called Enzo Amore who was the champion of Vince idea, put the title on him. Well, Amore had his personal issues get in the way and WWE got rid of him. Now the title's been vacant. And that's when Triple H took over, and they've had this cruiserweight tournament again leading up to WrestleMania, and now we have the final set of Mustafa Ali against Cedric Alexander. 2 very good high flyers. Don't exude much personality or mic skills at all. They've kind of put themselves like with such guys as Roderick Strong and Hideo Itami and the revamped Buddy Murphy in 205 Live now, and with this new manager, Drake Maverick, aka what's his name? Spud, Rockstar Spud from Impact. Yeah. He's the manager now. I think out of all the booking decisions, the matches were solid. It's kind of rekindled an interest in 205 Live for me, and it's definitely, I think, better than anything Raw and SmackDown are doing right now. But the end result just feels like the same old WWE booking in the end, which I'm kind of disappointed at. Which leads me to believe this Cruiserweight title match is just going to be on the pre-show of Mania. So we really haven't gone anywhere in the end.
I agree. I think they still treat it as like the filler matches, and that's a shame because they really had a good thing going with the Cruiserweight Classic. And I honestly thought when I was watching that tournament, I was totally drawn in from beginning to end. I liked the idea that it was a major world competition, tournament style, to see who the very best was. Phenomenal final match. I was like, holy crap, they're actually resurrecting the Cruiserweight division again, and it's going to be a good thing. But then this 205 Live stuff started happening, and it just came off as being a filler show, and I just didn't buy into it at all. So I'm not really following it. I think the extent that I've ever seen is just whatever pops out while watching a broadcast, and they just kind of like tell you what's happening, or actually attending a live event. I just attended a SmackDown in my area late January, and I saw a match 205 Live. It was the pre-show, and I want to say it was oh man, I totally lost my train of thought. The guy that used to be in TNA, what's his name? Oh man,
are you talking about Strong or?
No, no, not Strong. The guy who did the suicide gimmick in TNA.
Oh, okay.
I just it's at his name is at the tip of my tongue. I'm just not thinking straight right now. But anyways, he was in a match with some other guy. I forgot who it was, and it totally lost my interest. I wasn't even the least bit interested. The crowd was dead. I think maybe there was like one person into it. You could tell he was really a supporter of 205 Live, but other than that, it just didn't have that same feel. And I think the Cruiserweight Classic jump starting this whole Cruiserweight division had a lot of potential, and it just went downhill.
Well, I figured it was. I figured it was a slam dunk, especially with how the fallout was with the Cruiserweight Classic, how popular it became. Everyone got involved in the wrestlers that were in it, and then just to book it the same as any other show and to make it a filler show, because now all we see is those trademarks.
Yeah,
they do the flip on the outside. They'll do their 2 or 3 signature moves. They'll hit their finisher and it's over.
right.
There's no real buying into the match.
Yeah, there's no
buying into
real
the characters,
performance.
Nothing.
It's you can tell it's been practiced or done before, maybe even multiple times before it's shown in front of an audience. It's definitely choreographed, and choreography isn't a bad thing. Sometimes that can bring out the greatest of matches. We saw that done with Randy Savage and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat at WrestleMania 3, and it worked. But in this case, it just seems forced, and it's the same formula, week in and week out, and I just can't buy into it, and I don't comprehend how any fan can actually sit through it and say, "Oh, that was an amazing match,"
It's like I don't understand it either personally, because even if the match is let's say good, if you've seen it before, you're bored by it. That's why the best example I can put at this is the second match between John Cena and AJ Styles. Yes, it was a good match. However, if you put the match they had at, I think it was SummerSlam, was that first encounter, next to the Royal Rumble match, they're almost identical, barring a couple moves put in a different spot. And
I want to say SummerSlam was their second match. I think their first encounter was Money in the Bank, if I'm not mistaken.
And like the
that's what it was, right? I think okay. So then we had that match at SummerSlam, which I thought was amazing. And something, I think we've had this discussion before, JD, in the chat regarding that, because I attended that Royal Rumble live in person, and to me that match was amazing. But I'm thinking maybe the experience of being there live might have been different on than what was projected on TV live on pay-per-view.
Oh, sure. I mean, there's no doubt watching something live, you get a much different feel than just watching on TV, having a pizza and beer.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what 205 Live just feels like. I'm seeing the same guys perform the same 4 moves in the same way with the same result. And this revamped tournament for the vacant title, which, by the way, best Cruiserweight champion is vacant right now. He's been the best since the start. I mean, he even beats Neville out. They put on good matches. It didn't feel the same. It felt like a chance for them to shine, and then to just have, not that I don't like Cedric Alexander and what he brings to the table as a wrestler. Same thing goes for Mustafa Ali. They just don't seem to be championship material. It's just going to lead to a bland champion that I hope just loses it right away, so we can get someone that's actually worthwhile, that will actually get people interested in the product instead of just being a filler. Because then it's just it looks no different to me than a mannequin.
Yeah, that's what it comes off as. I think you described it perfectly. Maybe it might even be more important if it didn't involve the championship, because like you said, if they don't have that look of championship material, it's not going to work. The fans are not going to connect to it. And I think that's what's happening with the Cruiserweight division right now as we speak. These guys are still coming off as filler, maybe even rookies, and they have a strap that the fans probably feel is meaningless. There's no connection there.
Yeah, if rumor has it, they're about to bring in a 205 Live tag belt which would just be, I think, a disaster.
Oh man, yeah, they shouldn't.
There's already 2 tag belts that feel worthless right now.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? That's actually a good segue into what's happening with the Raw Tag Team belt going into WrestleMania, with probably the most over guy in WWE right now, who is Braun Strowman, their big monster among men guy.
Mm-hmm.
He won the number 1 contendership for the Raw Tag Team titles by himself, and they're forcing him to basically pick a partner. Now there's a lot of speculation on who that's going to be. Now, for fun purposes, because we haven't had a lot of this on the podcast, we've kind of just been recapping, which was the point of the episode. My idea was the Mix Max Challenge has been going on right now. It's for a good cause, $100,000 to a charity, and they've got cool dynamics going in. I think this is a perfect opportunity to get rid of the Raw tag titles and make a mixed tag championship. What do you think of this idea, Rad? I know it's not a popular choice, but I think it's different. I think it's different.
I actually
bring something interesting to the table.
I will give you that. It is different, and it actually brought my interest in it, because if one thing that has been great coming out of that mixed tag team tournament is Braun Strowman and Alexa Bliss. They've just really connected, and I think that people are buying into them possibly being in love with each other, which I guess works. They have the Beauty and the Beast gimmick going on. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely like to see that. That would be awesome. But even though the tag team championships, and I'm talking about both, seem meaningless right now, in the end, traditional wrestling still calls for a traditional tag team championship, and I don't think that's the way to do it. But I do see your point, and it does seem interesting to me. I just can't, I guess, warrant having them change the entire WWE Raw Tag Team Championship division and making it, a mixed tag team championship. But it might be completely different. I don't think it's been done before, even outside of WWE. I may be wrong, but if it hasn't,
yeah, I might be wrong. Yeah, on that as well.
Either way, I think it's definitely something different in the world of WWE, and that should be interesting. I mean,
yeah, because all it takes is a simple decision of okay, so Braun says Alexa Bliss is my tag team partner, and Alexa Bliss just kind of sits at ringside and maybe puts in a cheap shot on Sheamus or Cesaro, and they win the titles.
Now one thing I would probably like to see is let's say they just keep it as the Raw Tag Team titles, but Alexa Bliss helps Braun Strowman win it, and maybe she even picks up the pin. I think that can be a WrestleMania moment in itself. Highly entertaining, and it's something that we haven't really seen. She
hits a DDT on either of them after Strowman hits like 2 or 3 power slams.
Yeah,
he's like, no, tag me in.
I think that would be good stuff. And we've seen women win titles before. Chyna won the Intercontinental Championship from Jeff Jarrett all those years ago, 99.
Right.
Women competed in the Royal Rumble between Chyna and Beth Phoenix way before we had the all-women's Royal Rumble match. So, I mean, I think something like that can possibly happen, and I would love to see Braun Strowman and Alexa Bliss as the first ever mixed tag team representing the Raw Tag Team Championship.
Yeah, and just for the fun booking to continue, let's say they go with my idea with this mixed title, like Sheamus and Cesaro want a rematch, and Alexa Bliss is like, no, you have to get yourselves a woman partner or something, otherwise it's not fair, or just shit is talked, and then you have someone like the New Day or the Usos on Twitter or over on SmackDown just calling out any team because they've pretty much beaten everybody, or things have gone down on that end, and it becomes kind of a cross. They become essentially cross promotion titles, which I think that the tag title should have been in the first place.
Yeah,
much like the women's title.
I totally agree.
There's too many.
There's too many. Yeah, I mean, if there's 2 championships that need to be cross promotional, it's definitely the tag team and the women's. I still feel that both divisions don't have a roster big enough to warrant 2 different championships on 2 different brands.
No, because in just under a year, how many times have we seen the same matches?
Yeah,
How many teams have we seen?
And it's
buried?
worse on
the
SmackDown.
Revival are basically non-existent.
Yeah.
What's their faces on SmackDown? The not the Road Warrior guys. You know who I'm talking about.
The Ascension. Right.
The Ascension's gone to nothing. One of the best NXT tag teams that have come out. So if you're not using these guys, then why do you need 2 tag belts? That's kind of the point. That goes into the title dilution, which we're about to see yet another title introduced into NXT, called the North American belt. And they're going to have a ladder match at Mania or at TakeOver to decide the winner. It's a 6-man of just a conglomeration of all these newcomers, or, so I guess they're going for a mid-card belt with that.
Oh, man.
But that's not to me, that's just, again, you're diluting not only the wrestlers within NXT, but I think it also dilutes the importance of that main title, because that's what every wrestler in NXT is right now going for, along with the tag belts. If you add this third title, they already have the UK title. They don't need another one.
Yeah, I agree. I don't, and again, it goes back to roster not being big enough, to warrant another, mid-card championship. It just, I don't know what they're thinking with that.
Yeah, when they introduce every single guy in WWE these days, they're all an ex-champion. All of them. Every single one. Which we never used to be able to say that. Like, winning a title was huge. Even the number 1 contender title, or opportunity, was huge. Now you don't even have number 1 contender matches. Now you have someone like Roman Reigns just going, I want that. And they get it. And then they win it. It speaks volumes when you care about the belt that they're wearing. It puts the guy above and beyond all the rest, instead of just being yet another guy on the roster, just this time with a piece around their waist. That kind of goes into finally finishing up with the WrestleMania discussion, with what the card's looking like right now.
Okay.
And this will finish it up. We spoke briefly about Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and the Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon situation already. So let's talk about the tag titles, since we've mentioned that just earlier. The New Day, the Bludgeon Brothers, and the Usos are facing off with the SmackDown tag titles. This screams pre-show to me.
Yeah,
or
definitely.
filler match. So that's a triple threat. Then you have the Raw tag titles, which we mentioned before, with Braun Strowman against The Bar, Sheamus and Cesaro. This is rumored to be Elias as his tag partner, kind of a force, but who knows what's going to happen there. I wonder if that's going to be like the second match on the card, if not the pre-show as well. And even then, that still feels like a triple threat if Braun Strowman doesn't have a tag partner.
Yeah. And they're going to need some matches anyway to fill, what is it, like? It's like a 2-hour pre-show these days before WrestleMania begins?
Yeah, so they have the pre-show, the pre-show, and then your main card, which is 6 hours long.
Oh my god.
So, yeah, so you're going to have your 2 pre-show matches, then you're going to have your 2 Battle Royal matches, the men and women's, which I guess that's just going to be the rest of the roster filling out that. Who do you think's going to win the SmackDown tag team titles? Because I think Braun Strowman's winning the Raw tag team titles without question.
Yeah, without question. Braun will win the Raw tag team titles. Guessing over on SmackDown, I really don't care, and we're probably going to end up seeing, the same stuff that we always do. It's either going to be New Day or the Usos.
And then a rematch against the Bludgeon
Yeah,
Brothers.
and it's going to continue. I mean, that's all they got going for them. Really, there's not much to say about it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. If Braun Strowman doesn't win the Raw tag team titles, then why was he there in the first place? A lot of people are liking this angle that he's so big and bad that he can win the tag titles by himself.
Maybe that's what they'll probably be gunning for.
And then I go, okay, but I'm not applauding bad booking decisions, putting your most over guy in this situation. So, I'm being very negative on it, but I've spoken what they should do, and Braun Strowman should have Alexa Bliss as his partner.
That'll be a lot more entertaining. I don't mind that at all. I like Alexa.
I do too. She's been a great women's champion, which unfortunately seems like she's going to be on the pre-show against Nia Jax and lose the title.
No.
That's what
knowing the way they book these days.
And again, this is another case of Nia Jax has literally beaten nobody. Let alone, I don't even remember the last match she's had other than against Asuka, which she's lost both times. And yet she gets a title match. Okay. And she'll probably win. That's me being negative Nancy over here. Because I think Alexa Bliss is carrying the title with vigor. It keeps us interesting. The promo she cut after Elimination Chamber just ran over everybody easily. To take it off her at this point, I think would be a mistake, especially on someone like Nia Jax, who's just come off as a crybaby, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, anytime you look at her, she's getting her feelings hurt and she's crying, instead of being this monster.
And I think that's what it's all about. She's just a draw, but as far as the championship is concerned, I think Alexa Bliss should continue being the reigning and defending champion. She screams heel, probably one of the best in recent memory, and I think she should just be able to continue that run.
Yeah. Well, continuing on, we got 2 more triple threat matches ahead, which is Bobby Roode, Randy Orton, and Jinder Mahal for the U.S. title. Can't say I'm too enthused about it.
Yeah, that one is not one to draw at all. I totally agree with that, even though I just mentioned before that Randy Orton is one of my favorites. But I will say it should be interesting. I guess we'll see what happens. Maybe Bobby Roode will take it this time.
Yeah, my prediction is I somehow think Jinder Mahal is going to win this just to extend the feud behind these 3 guys.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And if it doesn't happen, hooray, I guess. I mean, for all we know, Randy Orton could win, then that's the end of that. And then they have... I just don't know what they do. I mean, there's no story here except Randy Orton beat Roode at Fastlane.
Yeah.
That was it.
And then Jinder Mahal squeezed himself into the title picture.
Right, by beating, I think he beat Orton in a one-on-one match because Roode interfered or something. It's very light and lazy story and booking leading up to the match. I don't doubt that the match will be okay, but I'm not invested in any way. Much like the Intercontinental Championship, which is another triple threat, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, and The Miz. What do you think of this match, Rad?
As far as booking is concerned, I'm not feeling it as well. However, these 3 guys can perform, so I think we will see an amazing performance. As far as who will win, I think it's time to put a championship on Finn Balor. So he would definitely be my pick. However, The Miz, one thing I will give him is he's an amazing heel. And I think sometimes it's important for a heel to have a long run with their championship. And let's face it, right now, The Miz pretty much has been the face of that championship title. So I wouldn't mind him retaining. But for the entertainment alone, I think that match should be pretty good. I'm not going to say excellent, but it should have a lot of amazing maneuvers and whatnot, especially from guys like Seth Rollins and Finn Balor.
We're about to see a lot of sling blades in the match. And weak sling blades. They're not as they don't look as harsh as, say, Tanahashi.
Oh no, nowhere near that level of quality.
It always looks like the dude just kind of falls down after the guy like puts his arm around him. I don't doubt that the match is going to be at least a good performance. What I don't like is the fact that why are guys like Seth Rollins and Finn Balor, guys who should be in the main event picture, going for a mid-card workhorse title? It just seems like they've been forced into this situation. Instead of having someone like Elias, who right now has nothing to do at this point of recording, they could have easily booked something between The Miz and Elias with their personalities for the Intercontinental title. It would have been no doubt more entertaining, more fun. The match probably would have been just as good. And then you have Seth Rollins and Finn Balor maybe just having a one-on-one match, and the winner gets the number 1 contendership. That's how I would have booked it. at least we would have been more invested than just these three guys going for the Intercontinental title. And probably, I think the Miz is just going to lose this to one of the two, and then they'll start battling for the IC title on their own. I think the two guys are above the IC title at this point.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one.
Yeah. I just have a real issue with WWE right now with having no established mid-card. You don't know who's going to go for a title at any given time, and they just seem to get these matches.
Yeah, so it's like if they're just forcing their main event guys into that mid-card title picture. Which some people are probably for it because they're like, okay, well, it brings relevance to those titles. And I do agree to an extent, but talents like Seth Rollins and Finn Balor, I think, are being wasted as part of a triple threat for, the Intercontinental Championship. You would think by now Finn Balor would actually be gunning for, the Universal Championship or something.
Yeah, the part-timer belt, as it's called.
The part-time championship.
Well, let's get into probably the three big draw matches. Number one is Asuka versus Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's title. Asuka has the streak. Charlotte has the name value. Probably the best women's wrestler on the WWE roster right now. Asuka is definitely no slouch. She's never lost in WWE yet. I think Asuka's winning this and taking the title from Charlotte. But knowing WWE, they could just have her lose it at Mania.
Well, that would suck. I think that's another thing that I think they should continue is that winning streak that she has. However, I'm also a fan of Charlotte. I think she has been an amazing champion, and I'm actually really looking forward to this match between the two. I don't mind how the booking has happened with that at all, and it's definitely a match I want to see, so definitely looking forward to Charlotte versus Asuka, but I completely agree. I mean, my pick to win is Asuka. But let's hope they don't have her lose it because I think her winning streak is already not a big deal yet, but it is getting there and it has so much potential. So just let her run with it. It's part of her character.
It is part of her character. But we can't be so quick to forget Charlotte had that 21 pay-per-view streak and then it just ended against Bayley.
Oh yes, that's right.
Or something. So I wouldn't put it past WWE to just end something in the women's division just because
they're always trying to make that Mania moment, even though it gets lost in the shuffle of a 6-hour pay-per-view.
If Asuka's streak gets ruined at Mania just for a quote unquote Mania moment, as you said, Rad, I don't think the streak is that big a deal yet.
Right.
It has to go on for like a year or two before.
Before it's something big. Mm-hmm.
What I would like to see is Asuka wins, and then Becky Lynch comes out, and they do like this double heel thing against her, and they start T Generation X.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I think it's a little far fetched, but I would love to see that.
Oh, it's for sure far fetched. It's just in my own little dream head of mine. But having those two like start a stable, which WWE for sure needs right now. They need something going for it, and having Asuka beat Charlotte, and then Lynch comes out and they just put her down. They do the clink. They get on the mic, like, we're here, we're going to start taking over. They show up in Raw the next day and beat up Nia Jax or someone, and Asuka. That's how you build story. I think that'd be a lot of fun, but all I see right now is a horrible situation of Charlotte just winning against Asuka clean.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of fun match, dream match is hopefully we get it and AJ Styles doesn't get hurt.
Oh man, I know, and I think it's looking like that right now, unfortunately, because the whole world wants to see AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura, and yes, we've seen it at Wrestle Kingdom before, but this is the first time the two will meet in this universe over here in a WWE ring. If something, like that happens, I don't know, how they're going to book it to fix it. So let's just hope AJ Styles is not hurt. And not only for the match itself, but as well for the guy. I just, hope he isn't injured.
Oh, it's scary. I mean, we saw him on SmackDown just kind of sitting there. He doesn't go in the ring. They book it so Nakamura beats up Rusev.
Yeah.
Poor Rusev. I mean, that guy.
Yeah.
Rusev Day is so over, and he better win the Andre the Memorial Battle Royal.
Oh man, I think he's the perfect candidate for that.
He better win it. Oh God, how is he not fighting for the U.S. title? Anyways,
exactly. Yeah,
God.
I mean, guys like him is what that championship should be built for, not the way it's being booked right now.
Oh, but back to Nakamura, AJ Styles. A dream match scenario. The match is it should be match of the night, barring a masterpiece from Charlotte and Asuka, which could steal the show. Nakamura Styles should be a slam dunk.
Yep.
Even if they're building it like absolute crap right now, with Nakamura hardly be on TV, they're forcing him to speak. That poor guy.
Oh yeah.
And Styles now being injured, it's becoming a travesty pre-match. But luckily, the match itself should be a slam dunk.
Yeah, I think they can still pull it off. If they just let AJ Styles, kind of rest up, and if he needs to do any kind of in-ring action, keep it minimal. Because I think that's gonna be the match that's gonna make or break this pay-per-view, and they really need something. And that match, like you said, is already a slam dunk. It's gold even before it happens, and we've seen it before at Wrestle Kingdom. Both individuals pulled off an amazing 5-star match, in my opinion. I think we will see it again at WrestleMania, granted that AJ Styles isn't injured and this match still takes place.
Yeah, and it's not even the main event, unfortunately, which we'll get to in a second here. Who do you got winning, Styles or Nakamura?
Styles retain, but I can see why they would want to put the strap on Nakamura. So I'm open to both results either way, but if I had to watch it from an entertainment point of view, AJ Styles is my guy, so definitely Styles.
I also see Styles winning just on the fact that WWE, I don't think they have the balls to put it on Nakamura. A guy who doesn't speak English, can't do promos, or at least they won't let him do it in the way that he's strong at. Because the dude is walking charisma.
Yeah, right on.
Even if people hate his style and hate how WWE is pushing the guy in your face, they're forcing him to speak. He sounds deaf because he's an awkward guy at heart.
Yeah,
but goddamn, he can wrestle. But yeah, I got Styles winning as well, which is unfortunate because then I think this leads to the inevitable release of Nakamura. Going back to New Japan, if this does happen.
I think that might be a little bit too drastic, JD. I mean, let's hope that's not the case. I'm pretty sure there's so much more that they can do with him. He has so much potential. But as far as winning a match against Styles is concerned, I don't think it's the right time right now.
Well, when would be then? Because I could see Nakamura just getting frustrated at this point.
Well, to be quite fair, I think he seems to be a team player, and a top guy. And when he left for WWE, he always mentioned that he just wanted to, I guess, have a platform where he can perform in front of a larger audience, at a global level, instead of just being limited to his audience in New Japan. And I think he's already accomplishing that. Obviously, the world became exposed to him, and I'm talking about the casuals that are not familiar with anything outside of WWE. And he seems to be a draw, right, especially with kids, casuals that just watch the product. He has that it factor. But as far as when the time is right, I definitely see a world championship in his future. I just don't think AJ Styles is the guy to get that for him. But again, he comes off as a team player. He's already been put in situations where, you I guess kind of feel maybe it might be a little bit demeaning, but he seems to be happy doing it. So I don't see him getting frustrated whatsoever.
Well, this is definitely a case I hope I'm right.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope so.
Because I love the guy. I loved watching him in New Japan. I love watching him now.
I totally agree with you on that.
I just don't think they're letting him out of his shell.
Yeah, you can still see that there's kind of control over his character, even though he still comes off as being awkward. WWE still has that creative control over him.
Well, before we get into that main event, unfortunately, that we have to bring up the Ronda Rousey, Kurt Angle, Triple H, McMahon match.
Okay.
What do you think of this? What do you think of Rousey so far in WWE?
I was afraid at first, and by that I mean I just I like Ronda Rousey. I think she has been a major force to be reckoned with in the MMA scene. Introduced, I guess, women being in MMA to the mainstream audiences. So she's obviously a big deal. She's a huge draw just by name alone. But because she came from UFC, I was afraid that the fans were going to reject her. So first of all, rewinding a little bit, going back to the Royal Rumble, instead of having her participate in the Royal Rumble, which we know no fan wanted to see, I myself included, I don't think that she was rumored to win would be a good way to introduce her to the audience. I think people will be like, you know what, she hasn't even been in WWE long enough, or debut match and she wins, that's not fair. For the workhorses like Asuka and whatnot.
Oh,
but,
right, yeah, exactly.
But I think they handled it well. After you already had, the winner, Asuka was looking back and forth between Charlotte and Alexa Bliss on who she was going to pick, and then Ronda Rousey appears, and it worked. The fans bought into it, they cheered, in spite of, regardless of how Ronda Rousey was pointing at that sign or whatever. I I think it was done creatively well. The only thing I did have an issue with is when she walked out and the smile that she had on her face, she came off as being a mark or a fan, happy to be there. But now that she's actually gotten into the zone, she's believable. You can see the intimidating face in her when she stares at, Triple H with those eyes, at Stephanie McMahon with those eyes. And I think they're handling it well. So as far as this match is concerned, I know it might not be popular opinion, but I'm actually happy with the route that they've taken. And I think it's going to work, and I'm actually looking forward to it. It should be interesting. I liked the contract signing that she had at, what was it, the Elimination Chamber, when she slammed Triple H on the table and stuff.
The big half belly in through the table.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, I'm not gonna knock her. I think it came off very well, and the piercing eyes that she had. She finally broke into character, and we were seeing the badass that we always saw in UFC. So I think it's going to be all right. And who better to tag with than, Kurt Angle, another, guy that has, the real wrestler background, former Olympic gold medalist and whatnot, going up against the king and queen of the WWE, Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. Not to mention that Ronda Rousey and Stephanie McMahon already have a history from WrestleMania 31 when they had that little interaction with The Rock, and Kurt Angle already has a history, with Triple H and Stephanie McMahon stemming way before back, during the Attitude Era. So it should be a fun match to watch. But that's how I'm going to describe it, as fun. I'm not expecting anything 5-star out of it. The story has just been, kind of like meh, but it's definitely something I want to see. So. We'll see where it goes from there. I'm okay with it. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm okay with what they're doing right now. I like how they're giving Rousey exposure. I like the kind of behind the scenes of her training with Kurt Angle and that serious from the heart promotion where a lot of fans don't like how she might come off as this glorified fan. She's smiling too much.
Sure.
At times. But just taking a step back and just looking at it from her perspective, where she grew up loving wrestling. She loved Roddy Piper so much. I mean, hell, she showed up at the Rumble wearing his jacket.
Yeah.
So that should tell a lot of at least the hardcore fan base, like how much she does love the industry and respects it, and how much she does want to care. She does care about this and how much she's willing to work, because there are video packages of her taking bumps and doing a lot of these moves. We saw her on we saw kind of a off the air exclusive on Monday Night Raw where she kind of just tossed Dana Brooke over her head like it was nothing.
Yeah.
So she's doing actual like suplexes and moves, as you said. Maybe this working with Kurt Angle is really really good for her, and I just hope they don't rush her. Is my hope. Like, treat her as this special thing for a while. Get her trained in the ring first and foremost, and then she can put on those matches. Have some throwaway matches in against like a Dana Brooke character. That would be good. Dana Brooke comes out like, hey, you're not from around these parts. Who are you in WWE? That's what she said. Have a match with her at the next pay-per-view. and just have her like not beat her in 2 seconds, but a couple suplexes, maybe she takes a couple bumps from Brooke out of nowhere, and then she just chokes her out.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Just treat it as a special thing for a while until she's fully ready to go up against a Bailey or Sasha Banks.
Yeah.
Type person.
And we know she's here to stay. I mean, she mentioned that she's in it, full time. So we're definitely going to see her down the road. But like you said, I think they need to build her up, slowly. And obviously, this match is just going to be an attraction for Mania. But I think it's the perfect introduction to in-ring competition. And from there on out, she can work her way up by wrestling women like Dana Brooke. That's the perfect way to describe it, because I know a lot of people were afraid that she was already going to be introduced to the championship picture from what we saw at the Royal Rumble. They kind of implied that Asuka was going to pick her competitor, and I guess that Ronda Rousey would get the next one with her introduction to the company. But that wouldn't have worked. So I'm glad, that they're taking the route that they are right now with the mixed tag team match.
Yeah, it's definitely worth just checking out for the spectacle alone, and that name power is there, so yeah. It's good. There we go. We're maintaining a positive outlook on at least one thing.
Yeah, I know. I thought maybe we might have been crapping all over WWE, but no, we got some positiveness going on.
But now I have to finally address the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
As our last topic.
Oh, man.
Since we're running a bit long, luckily we don't have to talk about it too much, because if you follow me on social media or you know me at all, I have words about Roman Reigns and the character and the state of WWE, because he kind of embodies everything that I don't like.
Yeah.
It's Roman Reigns in the main event for the 4th fucking year in a row of WrestleMania, and he's against Brock Lesnar, champion of
which we've seen before,
of the part-time belt, which we've already fucking seen before too.
Yeah.
Is Carmella gonna cash in her Money in the Bank?
She's insinuating all over social media. She keeps on posting pictures of her with it. So, but I doubt that's gonna save that match alone. She's probably gonna cash it in on one of the women's matches at Mania. So,
alrighty. So Carmella's not cashing in.
No. Highly doubt that.
Oh boy. So just as we made that joke, because this is just too perfect, as much as I don't like talking about Roman Reigns, your internet crapped out.
Yeah, unfortunately. I guess the internet hates Roman Reigns as well.
It's too perfect. I was like, oh my god, it's a fucking sign. We just need to skip over the main event.
Yeah.
Just like what I'm probably going to do and just watch a highlight reel of the match.
I guess we should have just ended the podcast right after the Ronda Rousey talk.
just so Roman Reigns, and then just cuts.
Everybody already knows what we'll be saying about him anyway.
Okay. So I mentioned prior that Roman Reigns basically embodies everything I hate with modern day WWE.
Yeah.
People that are fans of WWE, because they do exist, otherwise it wouldn't exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think Roman Reigns is a good wrestler. They like his persona. They like how badass he is. I'm like, okay, I get all that. But how long does it take before you see too much of the same thing? Because I've even talked to, I have a friend, he's part of the Retrocast here on Red Leaf.
Okay.
That he just got back into WWE, and he's like, "Oh, Roman Reigns is cool." Why?
Oh, wow.
And then after just 2 weeks, he's like, "Why is this guy just doing the same thing over and over again?"
Okay, that's interesting. I thought maybe you were going to say that he actually liked Roman Reigns being a newcomer, returning to the product.
Well, he kind of does, but even then, he's quickly
noticed
starting to not like him anymore.
Okay, so this is not just a thing. I always thought that okay, maybe us wrestling fans grew up and we're just not buying that Roman Reigns character, but I'm guessing everybody just sees it across the board.
That's what I'm thinking. So, we're in a group with Hibiki with, you go to house shows, it's just Roman Reigns stuff selling like hotcakes. Because that's really all they sell at. I've been to house shows. The choices of wear are very thin.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to a multitude of NXT house shows recently, just over the last year, and Almas is the current champion, and he has nothing being sold. Johnny Wrestling is technically out of NXT, and you can still buy his t-shirts, and that's like the only thing you can buy.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, how are you not selling the champion's merchandise? Or even an Adam... So, it's getting off topic here. But that's what Roman Reigns is. He's the perfect example of what we were talking about on the early parts of the cast. Is WWE is their wrestlers are a few signature moves, their catchphrase, and then a shirt seller. That's basically what they've come down to. They don't let anyone come out of their shell. It's very rare that you have a moment like The Miz has every week. And it took him how long to just get to this point? 10 years?
Yeah.
So, to have Roman Reigns just be put over as this guy who always wins, I mean, it's great. You need to book people to win matches to get them over. That's like that's wrestling 101. But there does come a point when you're just like, when's too much? And I think the best example of that was at Elimination Chamber just a few weeks ago, where Braun Strowman does all the damage. He comes off as this monster. He's just beating everybody over, and then he takes a single spear and Roman wins. I mean,
yeah. And obviously Strowman was the fan favorite in that match. I mean, the crowd was just really into it.
I mean, how much do you have to hate the guy that's being shoved in your face, where now you have for the second time on Raw, where who's supposed to be the bad guy beating the hell out of your main dude, and people are chanting, "You deserve it."
Yeah.
Like, it just amazes me how this is just constantly in our face. Plus, the Superman punch is the most annoying thing I've ever seen in wrestling since the Big Show's knockout punch.
So bland.
It's so bland. So, what is your take on Roman Reigns and him being in this? Because I just can't talk about the main event with Brock Lesnar. I mean, Brock Lesnar's a part-timer. He's a beast. They have a booked as such. Great. Fine. I hate the title in the first place, so I don't care that he has it. The title's been booked incorrectly since the start.
Yeah.
It was just a shame Finn Balor got injured day one, and then they made the right decision on putting it on Kevin Owens in a heel way with Triple H interfering, and then nothing really came out of that for almost a year. And then just to have Goldberg win it, and then more Lesnar stuff. So Roman Reigns is in the main event for the fourth year in a row. To reiterate, I don't like what he represents. I don't like that this is what's the current state. What is your take on all this, Rad?
I just think it's a matter of booking and WWE realizing that he's not that top face that they've been looking for. I know that they're trying to find that next, Stone Cold Steve Austin and even John Cena, and I'll give John Cena that credit. Roman Reigns isn't that guy, and Vince McMahon has this idea that he's trying to really force it on us, and the fans are very vocal and they're not buying it. And that's one thing that WWE lacks today, is listening to the fans. Now, if they're seeing all this heat, I feel like they should just embrace it. And the only way Roman Reigns is going to get over is just make him heel. I don't know how they'll do it, because even then I think the heat that he'll get might not be actual heel heat, but rather just heat that nobody likes him. But it could work. I mean, okay, embrace it. We already hate the guy. Why don't you make him do questionable things?
It's funny, because I think they missed the boat on that after he beat The Undertaker.
Yeah, I think they could have really... the moment that he announced that it was his yard at Raw and the crowd just totally booed the heck out of him, on the Monday Night Raw after, out of the building, I think that's where they could have seized the opportunity to make him that true heel, and they just... They didn't. They really missed their boat, and like I said, I think now, even if they do it, it might be too late, and I think the heat that he'll generate will just be the fans still not liking the guy. But again, I mean, I think it looks better on TV that he's a bad guy than trying to make him come off as the top face of the company, and the fans still aren't buying it. The only fans that seem to really care for the guy are maybe kids, and even then that's probably a limited number. And some of the, I guess, casual, women fans, That's not to knock who they like. I mean, everybody has a right to like who they like and hate who they hate, but Roman Reigns just has not been able to connect with the hardcore, wrestling fans. Even some casuals might even probably boo him because that's the new thing to do today. It's like you go to an event and what's more fun than booing that guy out of the building? So, yeah, I mean, it's just become part of the show now that Roman Reigns is, oh, that's the guy that I'm going to boo, and kids might already start following suit. So it's a very tough situation, but the only way to fix it is just to embrace that heat and make the guy heel. That's the only way it'll look correct on TV. Other than that, he, as you mentioned, he has a bland, finisher. People just don't buy into him, being that top guy. He might be able to perform an okay match, at best, but just what they're doing with him is just totally wrong, and none of us bought into it at all. And you know where I think it started
I had an interesting just to chime in here. I had an interesting conversation with a friend of mine because he's a longtime wrestling fan as well, and he actually likes Roman Reigns.
Oh, that's interesting.
And he's like, and he argues with me all the time, and I honestly get tired of it. But I had a conversation with him last week about thinking about starting this podcast with all the emails because he's wanted me to do one for a while as well, and he tells me constantly, no, Roman Reigns is a good wrestler. The Superman punch is well over. They sell it well. He's very positive about him, and I go, all right, well, okay, let's look at it this way. I don't doubt for 1 second he's not athletic because he is. He's a very strong guy. He's booked incredibly powerful. However, you would never know he's a good wrestler with the way he wrestles his matches. It's very limited. He's limited to a few kicks and punches, a clothesline. He doesn't even do the powerbomb anymore. He doesn't sell anything. Mm-hmm. What gets a wrestler over in a match than coming back from an injury? But he doesn't do that. He'll get his arm, like, you take a match against The Miz, where The Miz will work on his arm or leg the entire time, and then all of a sudden, he'll just run scot-free and hit the Superman punch with that arm, and he doesn't sell it at all. What's worse is in the Gauntlet match, which was very good, by the way. I highly recommend going to check out that. That's like the one highlight of Raw this year, is the Seth Rollins 60-minute Gauntlet match performance where he beats Roman Reigns and John Cena, but there's a moment in there where Seth Rollins hits a power bomb into the turnbuckle, the buckle bomb. A very dangerous move to people's neck. Sting can agree with that.
Yep.
And Roman Reigns gets hit with it and he immediately runs out and hits him with a Superman punch. Like, that's not selling the move, and it just makes him look invincible. I think doing things like that is what makes him so hateable instead of coming off as a wrestler.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, when the Superman movie came out all those years ago, that's what they based his character off of, Superman. Hence, he punches the ground, he cocks his fist like well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's all just he hits his 3-4 moves, does a few punches and kicks here or there, doesn't sell anything. He has a smirk on his face the whole time.
Just pissing everybody off while he's doing it.
None of these things are things that I go, yeah, I want to root for that guy.
Yeah. Like,
I just don't see it, and that's what, because it's not just him. It's a lot of WWE where they're essentially this husk of who they could be. Of just this guy spouting their few catchphrases to sell t-shirts. That's where this main event is and what it is. It's not why you and I, Rad, like wrestling.
Right, I totally agree with you on that. They're just treating it as the big fight that nobody wants to see, by the way, and just because Brock Lesnar is on there, like, okay, let's put that on the main event, which I'm totally against. I mean, the whole point for the main event is the winner of the Royal Rumble to face against the champion of his choosing, and that should be the match to close the show. But unfortunately, we're not going to get that. It's going to be Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar to close the show again, just as we've already seen before. I mean, that's what people seem to forget, where the term, Suplex City was born. That's where Lesnar famously told him, "Welcome to Suplex City, bitch," and the crowd went nuts, and that's where we've already seen that. What's going to be different this time? Is it going to be like an actual wrestling match where Lesnar's not just doing so many suplexes and then Seth Rollins cashed in at the end? Because other than that, I'm really expecting the same thing.
Yeah, the other conversation, the other points of the conversation that came up was two things. How would you feel about Brock Lesnar squashing Roman Reigns? Would that make this any better? And to that, I would say no, because we've already seen Lesnar squash plenty of people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not how you end a pay-per-view, especially your biggest of the year. Like you said, Rad, it should be the Royal Rumble winner. It should be the match to make people want to watch more wrestling.
Yeah, it has
kind
more
of what Raw 25 should have been.
Oh man,
but I guess that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, separate discussion, because that was just a train wreck.
Bury the Revival 101 right there. Jesus. So the other point that was made was, what if this match was, say, somewhere else on the card, like let's say in the middle, kind of what happened with the Goldberg-Lesnar match last year? Would that make it any better? And I said, yeah, it actually might. It might have made it better. The fact that not being the main event might have made the match more palatable.
Yeah.
But it is the main event, and you can bet your ass I'm not watching it.
Not even waiting for Carmella to cash in.
If she cashes in on Lesnar, I'll be like, I'm turning that shit on right away. Yeah, it doesn't say she has to cash in on the women's title.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the only reason. I agree with you. I'll probably end up tuning out, but I have to see the show to the very end, and who knows, hopefully, maybe they have something up their sleeve. I don't know, maybe the heel turn that we're waiting for. Maybe somebody else just coming out. I really don't know, but it's not a good way to close the show, and I even think maybe people in attendance will end up, just picking up their stuff and leaving, because I don't know why anybody would want to sit through something that we've already seen.
just to beat all that traffic in New Orleans.
Yeah,
I've done that before.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
It's brutal. To get away.
Go hit Bourbon Street early.
Yeah, it better go get a beer and vent about how bad the main event would have been. So I don't know. It's I guess we'll just see what happens. But yeah, if it's just another train wreck of a match and it closes the show, nothing to offer us but Roman Reigns standing in the middle of the ring as the new Universal Champion, or hell, even Brock Lesnar retaining. Like, just nobody wants to see this match at all. It's just people just are not buying into it. The fact that Lesnar's a part-timer and Roman Reigns is not being accepted really just screams a train wreck of a match. So we'll see what they do.
It's nothing but a lose-lose scenario.
We're not going to get anything out of it. We're not going to be sent home happy, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm wondering if all this talk among people like you and I will get to their ears. I doubt it, but I wonder if it's possible that they'll move the match to earlier in the card so people just don't tune out.
Yeah.
Because that's going to happen. I'm one of them. If I didn't have a friend right now who had network access, I wouldn't have the network anymore because of moves like this. It's just not a promotion I want to be a part of anymore. But now friends wrote me back in, so...
Yeah, I was aware of that, so,
it's inevitable. My $10 a month went to WXW.
There you
go. Do you think Undertaker's coming back for Cena?
Well, it's a good thing that you bring that up. I certainly hope so. I really thought when they had that last match, WrestleMania last year, that was it. But WWE's the type that they don't put something on a broadcast unless it's going to lead to something. And I doubt John Cena was just speaking from, thin air. I'm pretty sure they are leaning towards something. It's going to be a surprise. Maybe Undertaker might not make his appearance until the final Raw, the go-home show before Mania, or even at Mania itself, But I wouldn't mind watching Cena versus Undertaker. I know a lot of people are saying, yeah, well, Undertaker, he's hurt, he's old. But if this is the way to go out, at least have it against John Cena, not like a guy like Roman Reigns, last year. So I'm definitely seeing that. I think the fans deserve that one more match. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I would definitely like
I'm so torn on it. There's so many things that go.
Yeah,
in
and I don't blame you.
I said at the top of the cast, Undertaker is my third favorite wrestler of all time. Like, I love the guy. I've been watching him my whole life. I've grown up with him. There's a pretty famous wrestling cartoon out there of a kid with his dad looking at Undertaker. Walk out. For the first
I saw
time.
that meme. I thought it was.
And then the very next panel is that same kid, now an adult, watching Undertaker leave with his kid.
That was an amazing meme, so to speak.
I mean, it speaks volumes to what he's represented. Like, no matter what Undertaker I've seen, I've always liked him. Even his biker persona, as ridiculous as it was, in a way, that was like the real him.
Yeah.
And like, it's rumored that he might, like, if he's to come back, he comes back as the biker guy one more time. His dude in the back that kicks ass, takes names. No, he's not the dead man. It would be nice to see him go out like that. Was that his retirement that we saw last year, or him saying goodbye at Raw 25? Maybe that's the lead into one more match as his other persona. He only has 2 gimmicks, right? And his biker persona is a much easier moveset. I mean, it's just punches and kicks.
Yeah,
he's just there to hurt you. That was
brawler.
It. Mm-hmm. And a power bomb. I mean, powerbomb and chokeslam. It's more simple. I think it'd be easier on the body. It would be, I think, a better match with Cena in the end, even if he's not the dead man, because I just don't want to see this guy just go out like he did last year to Roman Reigns, because he looked hurt, he looked slow, he tried his best, and it was against Roman Reigns, who just can't put on a match longer than 8 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this whole if he were to do the American Badass thing, I think that would be the better option to go with, and I wouldn't mind seeing that. One last time. Him ride to the ring and whatnot. Like you said, I guess the whole point is not showing that he's a dead man, but rather that he's still alive and he's just coming back for one more match.
And I'm even torn on that idea. I'm trying to look at it from a positive perspective, and it's really hard with Taker because he means so much to me as a wrestling fan in my youth. I almost don't want him to come back. I want Cena to show up at WrestleMania, call him out, and instead of Taker showing up, you have like Rey Mysterio and Daniel Bryan come out, or just something. Just like, you want a match? I'll give you a match, and then that just knocks the house down. Probably I may not be the Undertaker, but I'm Rey fucking Mysterio. Like, that would be cool. It wouldn't be the Undertaker, but it would be something almost as good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if it is Taker, I just spoke about it, so it's a tough subject with wrestling fans. It's no doubt, and it's hard. It's hard with Undertaker these days.
Yeah. And I mean, how many weeks do we have before Mania now? It's like 2 weeks before.
It's 2 weeks, so what do? I mean, it's not even a good build at this point.
Yeah.
It's just name draw. It's no better than... I mean, look what we're getting with Roman and Brock. Roman shows up on Raw and's like, he's not here at work. Fuck him. Like, okay, I do that in real life. I don't get a match at Mania.
Yeah.
That's just me venting. But yeah, Undertaker, if he does show up, I hope it's a good match. I really do. And I expect he'd go out on his back because he's that old school about everything. Because that's just who he is. But a lot of people would like to see him win his last match. But that's not how wrestling works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, any last words, Rad? Any last words, plugs, and whatnot?
No, I think we pretty much touched base on everything. I want to thank you for having me on the the premiere debut episode of your Wrestlecast. We definitely am looking forward to doing more with you down the road. This was pretty fun, and I think it's a great platform to talk wrestling. I know I do that on my channel, but I'm not as active, at least from the wrestling part of it. And I always felt that instead of like a discussion video, podcasts just work a little bit more because you use the platform as a way to, talk about everything you like, everything you hate, maybe a platform to vent a little bit about the product that you hate. I think this is a good thing. So again, I just want to thank you for allowing me to be on here. And guys out there, if y'all haven't checked me out already, RadZero on YouTube. I cover both pro wrestling and retro gaming. Huge collector as well. I showcase a lot of action figures. Trying to do unboxings of video games. I have some games from Limited Run Games coming up, in the near future. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I got that going on. And if you guys haven't already followed me on Twitter, RadZero83, mostly tweet anything from wrestling to video games. There you have it, RadZero.
Yeah, I'll put your YouTube and Twitter handle in the description, and
sounds good.
Hopefully I can get a pretty loose schedule here and have you back as a regular host.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Like I said, JD,
I definitely enjoyed listening to your opinions about all this, and I'm glad I got a hold of you for the first one.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So this was the Red Leaf Wrestlecast. This was episode 1 of kind of the 2018 recap before the big pay-per-view events. We also do retro gaming based on theme. We got an anime retrocast as well. You can check us out, and a modern gaming podcast we do once a month on all the bigger games that came out. Me and a buddy of mine just did the state of gaming, from February over the releases and what they kind of have. It was a very in-depth discussion episode. It meant a lot to him. His name's Drew. His Twitch is Boogie the Ball. It's also in the description. So you can find the podcast on Podbean. That's where we're hosted at. But you can also find it on iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, and many others. It's just a simple search. Or you can find it on the YouTube page, which I have, which is Moosen Spiel. It's kind of a weird name at this point, but that's where all the podcast episodes can also be found. So thank you. I'm Bowling JD. Thank you again, Rad, for joining me on this inaugural Wrestling Cast episode.
You bet.
I hope to have many more, and I look forward to Mania, despite my negativity about it. I look forward to Supercard from Ring of Honor, and I look forward to New Japan Genesis, which Zack Sabre Jr. is taking on Okada, and that should be a very different match. So, thank you, and tune in next time.